It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. It is Tuesday, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Tuesday, the 10th day of July, 2012. Coming up in the second hour, we are going to be joined by Rosalind Peters, who's done a lot of deep research into weather modification. And I thought to get her on late last week when I saw the report out of the Hill newspaper, Napolitano, on weird weather and climate change. There's a pattern here, and their answer is pay Al Gore and the global government a bunch of money, and they will basically take care of everything for us then. But meanwhile, there is massive sustained weather modification going on all over the world on record. Most of it's classified, but the fact that it is going on is declassified. Just the details are classified, so she's going to be joining us coming up in the second hour, and we'll also open the phones up then. We're going to open the phones up during this hour as well. I have been planning to go to Colorado to report on the road and check out the United States before the federal checkpoints completely shut it down, and enemies of the global government like myself won't be able to travel anymore under the no-travel system they're openly announcing. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's where all this is. That's where all this is going. But then the little RV we have, little is the joke, turbo on the, that sounds fancy, but all those big buses have turbos on their diesel, blew up. It's an old bus. And so I didn't go, but that's why Mike Adams was sitting in yesterday, because I was going to be on the road that day, give me a chance to get all the way to Colorado. But I want to thank him for sitting in and doing a fabulous job. We are, again, going to be here for the next 3 hours today. And more I realize that I'm just in information overload, as I know you are as well. I mean, I just read all this news and information and track it and follow it and then want to talk about each little piece of it and then only get to a fraction of it. And that's what's allowing tyranny to continue to spread its black wings over human society, is because so much is happening and things are moving so quick, and this foundation of corruption has been built to such a point that this tyranny is just being poured out like a vial of acid onto us. We've just got to be here pointing out to people why this is happening. And really, it hit me this morning again. I've made this point a lot, but it really hit me that much stronger, that this is premeditated. This is an organized, scientific takeover. And that's why the system doesn't care if we all wake up. That's why they don't care what we do. They're going ahead with it. And I just want people serving the system who are compartmentalized cogs to understand the future being developed, the future being established, is a future without about 99% of us. Now, that's only in a few globalist documents that they plan to kill 99%. Most of the documents are 80% or 90%, and that's the debate they have. But I just want to tell all the professors and camp followers and fellow travelers that go along with all this that you're going to be killed as well. Now, people like Dr. Pianka at UT, who calls for an airborne Ebola to be released to kill 90% of us, he says he understands that he and his family are going to die, and he's sad about it, but it needs to happen. And he turns out people out of the biology department who send me threatening emails, and I go look them up and find out they're over bioweapons development, saying, of course, humans are a parasite, and we'd be better off without any humans, and the doctor only wants to kill 90%. We should probably kill everyone. And then you go look the person up, they're in a white lab coat bragging about how they work in bioweapons development. Yeah, these are the type of big issues we're talking about. We're going to come back, get into all of it. It's very important. TSA is now savagely attacking deaf people. It is Tuesday, my friends, the 10th day of July, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we are going to be here for the next 3 hours today. We're going to take a deep look at ongoing declassified weather modification going on globally and being used as weather weapons against populations across the world with Rosalind Peterson of California Skywatch. Always informative, and it ties into the drones, ties into massive whale and other marine mammal beachings all over the world with the new super high-power sonar systems as well. Very important information coming up. You know, where do you start? I've probably got 200 articles here in front of me, each one more insane than the last. I just want to get this out here right now to everybody listening, because we have a lot of new listeners every day that tune in, but also longtime listeners, because this hit me, you know, right between the eyes psychologically of this morning. It just really hit me that we've been very accurate about our analysis of the world government and their end game, and that it is totally premeditated, everything you see unfolding right now at a global level by the banking crime syndicates, and that they are waging war against society and want to implode the world economy. And that is literally in thousands of their statements and documents. But when you consciously understand that, and you consciously realize that all of the big pharma were set up by eugenicists in the last 150 years, the people that created Hitler, just to give you an idea who they are, and that they designed the new drugs to hurt you and kill you as part of a system to profit while they get rid of you, and that they block good, inexpensive drugs from being legalized, and that it is premeditated, complete evil. I was just thinking about this. In the last 4 days, it's come out that the drug company GlaxoSmithKline knowingly put out an asthma drug that did not help you and, in fact, made asthma worse and is linked to killing a bunch of people. And they've made $7.8 billion in 1 year off of it, $13.4 billion globally, and they're estimated to make even more than that in the future. 13.4 billion in just international sales by 2020, but they had blockbuster sales of 7.8 billion in 2010, and that they knew it was a death sentence. Now, in the 60s, they said stop giving oral polio vaccine to people, and that it was the law, it had to be destroyed. It's still given in the United States. See, that's what's incredible. It is in the Indian and African and European and even U.S. Medical publications that last year alone, 47,500 plus children were paralyzed, and many of them died. We're talking about kids dying over a few weeks as a virus eats their nerves and then not being able to breathe and dying. Doesn't feel too hot. Under the UN Bill and Melinda Gates polio vaccine program. No one's going to save them. No one's going to help them. And I get to go sit in a restaurant here, stay with my kids, and watch cops strut around in there as they eat, bugging their eyes out at me. Fine. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. The country and the world is run by psychopath killers. Creepy, vicious, murderous nerds like Bill Gates and his wife that I have to sit there and look at, knowing full well what they're doing. And then I get to see all the little bureaucratic state henpecking and micromanaging and throwing the book at the public and all of this, while I know, I don't think, I know in quadruplicate, triplicate on top of itself that they're murdering us and no one is standing against them, and it's just getting more and more insane because the average person listening to this who's a new listener, A, cannot believe it's really this bad, and B, even if they check it out and find out it's true, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I guess you just die. I mean, we just watch society slowly die, and it becomes normal to have, half your family with cancer and, brain damaged, and everybody just starts dying, and that's the way it is. And everybody goes out and has a little, 10K jog, for all the neurological disorders, or the breast cancer up 2,000+%, or the pediatric cancers. Yeah, because I've got all this news in front of me, but does any of it even matter? But they had a famous musician yesterday. In fact, I had it in the stack, but you guys print it for me again because I can't find it. Get groped. And there was a big death conference in Kentucky, and they were flying back out wearing their shirts from the death conference, unable to hear. And the TSA started making fun of them, calling them names and stealing stuff out of their bags in front of them, and then eating their candy out of one guy's bag and laughing at him. And people are like, well, that's an anomaly. No, it's not. That's what's meant to happen. That's what tyranny looks like. That's what we're going to go into. That's who the home inspectors are in Australia now. Exact type goons doing the same stuff. This is what it's like to be a slave. And everybody wants to be a slave. Well, you're going to get to be one on your way to being soft-killed. So they implemented a market program back in 2010 to push a direct-to-consumer, kind of like in the 80s. In 81, they mailed out Prozac in samples in the mail, a psychotropic, hallucinogen-based chemical weapon that brain damages you, and they mailed out samples in the mail. Oh, but the police are going to have a checkpoint later today in your town to just make sure you don't have any drugs. And you're supposed to, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I watched these cops yesterday when the waiter came over and thanked him and said, oh, sir. And they just ignored him like they did. This is a citizen. It's a piece of trash. Cops didn't even act like they existed as they're sitting there eating like an hour-long lunch. And then I watched as they got up and ambled around. I watched as a family was walking up, and they all fearfully waited for the police to go out the door first. And the dad and the people with their kids were shaking in fear. I mean, get me out of this country. Just get me out of here. It's the whole world, though. I could go to third world countries. I could go to Mexico or North Korea and, watch people when cops come stand up, scared up against the wall. I don't even hate those police, by the way. I just know we're circling the drain. Just everywhere I go, I see the signs of it. And it tears my guts out. I mean, this is coming out every day or two now. And by the way, GlaxoSmithKline admits that they knew their asthma drug, Advair, actually caused asthma and killed people, including adrenal insufficiency, worsening of asthma, and death. Well, I mean, they knew that the Gardasil shot was killing people that didn't protect you from cervical cancer. Said it on the insert. They knew that the H1N1 was killing people. They knew that they were giving the smallpox and anthrax shots to the troops. It killed thousands. They know. It's not for a greater good, though, like, well, statistically, this makes it better. They spread it. That's why polio is now spreading in Africa, Central Asia, Pakistan, subcontinent India. Because, I mean, it's admitted. They don't even deny. They're causing it. And then now when they have outbreaks and it paralyzes people, they go, well, we don't call it polio, but it is polio. And it's a weaponized polio. I mean, I was thinking about knowingly. Bill Gates went over there to inject, but also give them oral. You can pull up, Bill Gates gives children polio vaccine, and he gets this psycho look on his face while he's giving them a shot or putting it in their mouth. And I just thought, my God, how do you do that? Well, I mean, and he's, dad's head of Planned Parenthood, globalist, eugenicist. He's on record. That's what his family comes out of. But because he dresses like a nerd and wears, an Izod pullover sweater and acts real friendly, people like, oh, no, scary people look like a monster out of a movie. They don't look like Bill Gates. And he knows that. And they just go on and on, him and his witch wife. I got an article up at Infowars.com right now. Depopulating the third world, UN sterilization camps in developing countries accelerating. And they just admit that the UN goes and pays the local government to arrest people and take them to these camps and sterilize them. And then if you tell a yuppie about it, they'll giggle and say, well, there are too many people. Don't you get it, moron? It's being done to you through the food and water. Don't you get it, you idiot? They plan to get everybody. This is so diabolical. Oh, but by the way, it's not just GlaxoSmithKline. Don't forget Merck vaccine fraud exposed by Merck virologists, documents released in court where Merck knew that their vaccines were actually causing what they were supposedly treating, and that was a way to make more money. As it spread, that advertises it. They advertise it as 95% effective in the treatment of measles, but actually caused the outbreaks, and we've got all the documents. It just goes on. It's like Google says, don't be evil. Folks, they were set up by the foreign banks through their spy system, the NSA. We're conquered. 12 years ago, 13 years ago, 1999. Now they just admit they're spying on everything, and these companies make 10, 15, 20 billion. They pay $1 billion fine on the vaccine killing people, or $1.3 billion fine on the asthma drug killing people knowingly. Bayer Pharmaceutical, 11 years shipping out factor VIII blood thickening systems with HIV and hepatitis in it. I mean, you talk about Jeffrey Dahmer is an angel compared to this. Literally. Literally. An angel compared to these people. And Bill Gates is now taking over the milk. We're going to tell you about this. I mean, it's end of day stuff. It is Satan incarnate So Nicki Minaj has now come out and said she was groped at the airport. Everyone gets to be groped. It's the new sacrament, and now you get to be made fun of. Hey, that's my dad's or grandpa's ashes. Please don't. No, we got to open it. No. Dump them out on the floor, laugh at you, rob your bags, rape you in the parking lot. This is what TSA is. This is the federal, illegal, not bonded, not sworn, out of their jurisdiction, violating the Fourth Amendment. So, flying out of Louisville, Kentucky airport, there was a group of hearing impaired or deaf folks who've been to a conference. This article's up at Infowars.com. TSA agents laugh at deaf man, call him effing deafy, steal his candy. And so first they make fun of him, then they pull out some candy in his bag, so you can't have this. We're a military base facility, USO. And they say it's for the troops and then laugh, because it's okay if you say it's for the troops, and then eat the candy in front of him. And Boing Boing's picked this up. There's also some other blogs that have the news, and it's par for the course. The New York Times has confirmed, one of their reporters has written, so since they're the New York Times, if they say it, it must be true, that what we reported on last week is confirmed. They are now yelling freeze at people. They just yell freeze to the entire line, and then if you move, everyone henpecks you and says you're supposed to freeze when they say, because the whole thing is basically an arrest scenario. That's what it is. The whole thing is, again, acclimating, and we also have a video, and Kirk's doing a blurb on it right now, up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, of the TSA marching around with checkpoints in Chicago. But again, they're not actually going to stop the gangbangers with all the guns killing people. Guns are banned, so the criminals all move there because they don't follow the law to feed on citizens that do. And no. They're just searching people randomly, business travelers, again, to acclimate you that you have no rights. Here it is. TSA agents laugh at deaf man, call him bleeping deafy, steal his candy. You're dumb deafies anyway, so no one will believe you. And we've talked to TSA whistleblowers here. It's been confirmed as well. They do hire criminals. That's mainstream news. And when they hire them, it's all a big joke now. It's like, ooh, she's good looking. Watch this. If you're into women. Or if the guy's into men, it's watch this. And if it's a movie star, women come over, the TSA agents, they ask for autographs. They ask for naked body scan images to be signed. That's come out, and it's a celebration of abuse. And that's what tyranny is. It's all the people that are into that get hired by the criminal oligarchs. It happened in Russia, in China, in Nazi Germany, in Fidel's Cuba. I got somebody working for me that lived in Venezuela under Chavez. That's exactly what it's like. They show up at your business and say, you can still work here and get a small paycheck if you want, but the state owns it now, and we're putting these bureaucrats' families in here to run this. And by the way, we'll arrest you if you don't keep this running for us and just basically give us the money. It's just like when the mafia would show up at your grocery store, or your cleaners, or wherever, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago in New York or someplace, or New Jersey, places where folks would put up with it culturally. And they'd come to them and say, you're going to pay me 20% of everything you make, and to make sure you do, you're going to hire my buddy here. He's not going to do any work, but he's going to sit behind the counter, and then he's going to watch everything you're doing. You're going to pay him too. And then a few months later, if you put up with that, they go, oh, you're going to hire some more people. And then you know what? We're going to kill your daughter and kill your wife if you don't go sign some debts with the bank and give us the money. Because you know what? We've learned you'll put up with this. And see, that's what government's doing now. It's saying we're going to have the government enforce the IRS on you. And they're going to collect money and pay it to foreign banks. And they're going to enforce the health care on you. And we're going to cut the care you get as well, written by the insurance companies. And we're going to increase your property taxes. We're going to increase your business taxes, your franchise taxes. And we're going to come in and have environmental inspectors. And you meet these people, and it's like TSA agents. They've got a crazed look. They love the fact if you get scared. Like this morning, I got physically angry remembering the footage of my guys in Kansas City at a city park a half mile from the Federal Reserve, and security guards come up with guns as my guys are getting a time-lapse shot and said, leave, or we're going to shoot you. They had their, and our guys said, but you're security guards. You're not even, they just said, well, do it. And, I told the guys not to get arrested, so they complied with the false order. But you know what? You'd be in your rights to have a firearm and defend yourself. Those people are terrorists. All right, I'm going to throw out some more of the headlines and globalist outrages that are taking place. Then we're going to take your phone calls ahead of our guest joining us to break down weather modification as the governing class takes our energy, our tax money, our inventions, puts them behind a wall of national security, and builds weapon systems, you name it, against us. And then hires just an army of absolute scum and filth to feed on us. TSA agents laughed at deaf man, call him effing deafy, steal his candy. Again, the man was part of a conference of deaf folks, hearing impaired, coming back so they knew who they were with their conference T-shirts. And because they were signing, they can read, obviously, lips. And blogger for Tea and Theater was traveling back home, having attended a week-long conference for deaf people in Louisville. His T-shirt, part of a promotional material for the conference, clearly identified him as being deaf. As soon as he approached airport security, no, see, big government is what's insecure. The TSA officers, they're not officers, began laughing at the man. Welcome to North Korea. They went through my bag for no reason and found a couple of bags of candy I brought. I was told I wasn't allowed to fly with that. I've flown with food before. They were even sealed, and it went on. You don't make excuses, slave. I was then asked if I would like to donate the candy to the USO. It's for the troops, since I know the airport there has a Air National Guard base. I figured it would go to the soldiers. So he said, sure. Oh, well, the fun. See, now they were testing you to see if they could have some fun. Because cowards want to make sure you're a coward so they can have some safe fun. Things would have gotten real loud at that point with me. The guards, as I was getting scanned, that's right, radiated, and getting your naked body scan, why not do more, started eating the candy they just told me was for the soldiers in front of me. Well, that's the whole point. Still laughing at me very clearly now. One of them asked why they were laughing. And one of them came up to me, pointed at my shirt, and laughed at me and said, effing deafy? The Louisville TSA called me a effing deafy and laughed at me because I was deaf, and they expected wouldn't say anything back or wouldn't hear them. Make no bones about it. She was facing me, and I read her lips. There was no mistake. I would later find out that they had called at least 4 other individuals the same thing. Yeah, you get a bunch of deaf folks who, on average, have higher IQs than average folks, you idiot TSA maggots. And then, I mean, this is the essence of North Korea, the essence of Mexican corruption. They wouldn't even act like this in Mexico, by the way. The essence of everything disgusting. The essence of Nazi Germany tyranny, Russian communist tyranny. I mean, this is it. And I'm just amazed by how trashy this country's gotten in many sectors. And how those of us that are wholesome and aren't degenerate, we're the enemy. And it just goes on with the hiring of criminals, dumping over jars, dumping them out, then laughing at people with their families' ashes. They're not going to stop. This is the fun. You know, I told you what happened probably, it was in 2006, and I was flying back from Los Angeles. And, again, I'd just been at the hotel, just showered, just put fresh socks, shoes on. Because, if anything, I've got good hygiene. And I'm driving through, and they say, take your shoes off. I'm going through, walking through all the athlete's foot, all of it. Talk about a sanitization problem. Talk about a biohazard. And these guys start laughing at me going, oh, look at Mr. Stinky Feet. And it was so infantile, so childlike, I kind of halfway smiled at the guys. And they looked at me and started being real aggressive, going, Mr. Stinky Feet. Oh, he doesn't like us saying we have stinky feet. And I didn't even really get mad. I was shocked by how pathetic and weak and worm-like these people were. And I was like, wow. Wow. And then they looked away and walked off. Because I guess they wanted me to get upset and feel humiliated. That would feed their vampiric power. It wasn't that. It was more how pathetic they were and more shock. And they read that and scurried off. But imagine, they've got those little kids in there every day. You've seen the videos, the photos. They get scared. They yell at the parents, stand back, grab the 2-3-year-old crying, drag them off. There's a hardcore psychic vampire feeding going on right there. Well, that kid's scared, being pedo trained by the pedo enforcers. I mean, it's a pedo feeding frenzy. And again, the humiliations are just going to get worse. I mean, this is the bottom falling out. Because, hey, 50-plus million babies that have been chopped up, nobody was there to save them. Nobody was there to say they were a human. So they're going to drag your 4-year-old off and molest them. They're going to grab your wife's breast. They're going to put you in a microwave oven. They're going to steal your candy. They're going to take a 2-ounce bottle of shampoo when I was in Billings and start screaming at women who kept the shampoos, saying this is illegal and all this stuff when it was actually, what was it, 3 or 4 ounces. And they knew full well it was about sacks of pus that live to dominate and bully people. And that's hard work, bullying people. It's hard work doing that. Only the lowest life forms enjoy things like that. And I now digress. It's just that this is only a small manifestation. You're going to say children aren't children in the womb? Well, you know what then? Why not kill children up to age 3? Guys, type it in. Bioethicist Journal calls for killing children up to age 3 who are even healthy. Kill the old. You're now hearing it. You're now hearing them go, well, yeah, you're not going to get eye surgery when you're over 60. You don't deserve that. We all pay into it, those old, dirty, bad people that Time Magazine was telling us about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to take care of them, get rid of them. See, it's a predatory economy where it implodes now. It isn't a win-win where the economy grows. That's their enemy. That's freedom. They're getting rid of that. This is the new economy. This is the new America where 4 cops are eating in a restaurant, and I watched them while I sat there for about an hour eating with my children. And they didn't talk to the waiter when the waiter came over and groveled to them and called them sir, 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 in fear. This country's so gone. I mean, wow, whoa. I mean, just the, it was so pathetic. Yeah, there it is. Doctors should have the right to kill unwanted or disabled babies at birth as they are not a real person, claims former Oxford academic. Yeah, that's something else. This is a new bioethics journal, calls for killing children up to age 3. Government funded. And again, I'm not even bashing the police. They were in their own world. They're so used to it, they think it's normal. Maybe they think they're royalty. Queen Elizabeth doesn't think it's abnormal for people to fall down before her, and the cops didn't. And then I watched when the cops got up, there was a family going out the door, and it wasn't done out of respect. It was done out of fear. They waited. And the 3 cops went in front of the family, and the one cop at the end felt embarrassed and turned and went, no, no, you go. See, in that little act of being humble is the hope of our civilization. The one cop, when the family sit there with fear up against the wall, good-looking family, the 3 cops, well, yeah, we're God, walked by, and the one at the end looked at him, and there was this moment, and you could tell he saw the fear, and he smiled at him and waved him forward. I mean, that's how, land of the free, home of the brave, where you see cops in a restaurant walking across the thing 10, 15 feet behind you, and you're so scared of them, that you stand up against the wall. That's what the TSA and all of this is about. Well, not me! If there was some new continent and it didn't even have electricity, I would go there now. If it was promised that the globalists wouldn't invade it, wouldn't be messed with it, if I had to go hand dig wells and I had to go live in the middle of the desert, I would leave. I will tell you now. But here's the deal. There is nowhere to go, nowhere to run. And let me tell you, you want to know why we've gotten to this point? You got to look in the mirror. Here's the toll-free number to join us. Going to give the number out now. First-time callers, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231, and we will get you up and on the air. 800-259-9231. You know, I was reading, it's not just 2 big pharma companies. There's actually 3 who've just been caught and are paying less than 10% of the money they made to the government. So it's really a license to kill for knowingly killing people with vaccines they knew were going to kill them, and they knew actually gave them the measles and other pathogens, where big companies knew drugs were killing people and put it on the market. They know. You see, instead of saying, oh, don't give it to a pregnant woman, as they've done for 60, 70 years with vaccines, knowing it causes an autoimmune response and can either brain damage the children or cause a miscarriage. Instead, they just 3.5 years ago started saying pregnant women especially, no danger, and had it taken off the insert. I mean, wow, man. I mean, that is cold-blooded. When you got a happy 6-month pregnant woman and the dad's excited and they're buying, you know, stuff, getting the crib ready, and then you have a horrible miscarriage, and these people just lick it up like a dog eating vomit. My guts are torn out by this because I understand, ladies and gentlemen, they are hurting innocents everywhere. There are hospital beds of soft-killed children, paralyzed, in horrible pain, with bed sores all over them, just later to be given hospice and to be killed. That's what India does, because they're so poor, because the UN came and gave them the vaccine last year. Of the 47+ thousand, thousands and thousands and thousands have died. Thousands more are dying. And they're over there right now. Nobody's helping them. They're in open air with bugs crawling on them. If they haven't been euthanized yet, if they can hold on, if they haven't been given opium yet till they die at the hospice. And it's just funny to America. America, the average American listening probably thinks this is cute. I've talked to them. It's fun. It's neat. Well, it's all going to happen to us. You need to understand that. And I shake with the judgment this country's coming under. Even if you're a nihilist and don't believe in God, you need to know when you let this type of stuff go on, it's going to come back on you. And they've announced the new executive order, as I told you years ago, because they'd already had other executive orders, and I could see the federal regulations, that they're going to be able to take over all communications, radio, TV, internet, cell phones. and that they're going to start testing it more and more with government announcements. In fact, it's already begun. And they say it's a selective kill switch. They're already testing it. It's just armored pillboxes, hundreds of millions of rounds, hollow points for us, checkpoints, SWAT teams everywhere, taking our money and arming to the teeth against us, drones, armored vehicles, tanks, citizen spy forces, the cable man, the telephone person, the maid service. Everyone is trained to spy on you. When you go rent a car, they ask you 20 questions, literally more than 20, spying on you. Hotels, everybody's a secret agent. Everybody knows how to watch each other, but the crook foreign banks that took over. Nobody's watching the government. Oh, it's totally secret behind national security. See, things are backwards. Government's supposed to be transparent, and then we're supposed to be secret because we're individuals, and we don't have the power of the mega state. So we're supposed to have the secrecy. They're supposed to have none of it. I've got a lot of economic news that we're going to get to after our guest leaves us and after calls. Google, of course, it came out months ago, what we told you years ago, for the NSA is driving around in vehicles, grabbing your wireless transmissions, and cracking codes and downloading your computer and ignoring privacy settings and going through and downloading the contents of your computer, loading Trojans on your computer, and watching you and listening to you with AI computers that go to the National Security Agency. Google is the NSA. And that's the Daily Mail. Google fined $25.5 million for ignoring customer privacy settings, the largest penalty ever imposed by U.S. Federal Trade Commission. That'd be like if I got caught robbing a bank for $20 million and the police pull up and I go out and give them $5,000. That's about the equivalent. But the average person hears that, but I think, oh, well, that's a lot of money. What's Google's stock worth? 500 and something billion? I mean, I forget last time I checked. Oh, GlaxoSmithKline killed tens of thousands of people knowingly? Little kids? Oh, this will help with my asthma, and you die? Or you got to go to the emergency room? Hey, big deal, it's just a dead kid. Hey, Homeland Security's there to keep us safe, folks. We're going to be going over all that today. We've got a lot of other important news as well. We've also got a strange mystery that I'm going to cover in the third hour briefly if something bad doesn't happen to the Admiral, as they say. But I want the crew to remind me to cover that. There are tombstones falling on children and killing them. And when I saw this weekend, and I wasn't on yesterday, when I saw this Sunday night, I said, didn't that just happen? And I went and looked it up and found more than one other case in the last few months. Falling tombstone in Utah smacks into 4-year-old boy, killing him. That happened this weekend. Associated Press was a 6-foot tombstone. The family was visiting the graves. Well, it wasn't visiting the gravesite. Just decided to visit the cemetery. Didn't have anybody buried there. Here's another 4-year-old crushed to death by tombstone while playing in cemetery. That happened in North Carolina in June 10th, last month. I'm going to say a cult needs to be investigated, connections between these two groups of people, and because statistically that's what this is. Because they haven't had incidences like this before. And in 1 month, it happens to small children in the U.S., at cemeteries, to small children. I think this stinks. But, you know, that's called being a conspiracy theorist. If you actually know when something is so implausible, what is plausible? I know. I know what's plausible. My gut tells me what this is. You know what's wrong with having a gut like mine? It's never wrong. The only problem is I don't follow my gut. And a lot of you got a good gut. It's called your spirit. Call it our gut. You don't follow yours either. What's your gut tell you about this government? Just a bunch of out-of-control idiots? No. They're premeditated death. Your gut tells you danger. Will Robertson, danger. We'll be right back with your phone call. Stay with us. I'm not going to belabor this because I want to go to your phone calls. But Ernest Borgnine was a listener of this radio show, but did not want to come on this show. And it was about 5 years ago I talked to Ernest Borgnine. It was just an interesting factoid that when he was 90 years old or 91 years old, died at 95, Sunday night, I guess, that he was aware of the New World Order and a pretty smart guy. There's a lot of other famous people. You know, he never said, hey, don't talk about us talking on air. I just didn't want to go on air and say, I just talked to Ernest Borgnine, because it would sound so ridiculous. But, you know, it's look at how many other interesting famous people we've had on the show, from Charlton Heston to you name it, Charlie Sheen. The list just goes on. And again, it's not bragging, hey, I know famous people. It's saying, look, freedom is popular. There's a lot of interesting people that are aware of what's going on in the world. Of course, we've heard Ed Asner on the show many times. But he's aware of the New World Order. His fix for it is not what my fix would be, but he certainly is a good guy at heart. But Ernest Borgnine, it's funny, I was thinking about him a couple weeks ago, and I thought, I ought to dig that number out. I ought to try to get a hold of him and get him on the show. He is so cool. I mean, he's like 95 and still alive, and I must have been thinking about him because he must have been sick or something, but... It's the same thing with Kurt Vonnegut. I got sent some of his art, told he was a listener, got in touch with him. He's like, I'm too old. No, I'm not giving any more speeches. I'm going to give one more speech and I'm done. And he gave one more speech at university and was dead a year later. But that would have been cool. Harry Dean Stanton, I've gotten to know him. In fact, when I met him at Jesse Ventura's birthday party, he's like, I know you. You're Alex Jones. I like what you're doing. And then you want to be cool and then not try to get him on the show. You know, he's in Red Dawn, Alien, everything else you can imagine. It's not just that he's a movie star, it's that he's iconic. And he's really old. He's one of the old guild movie stars, which is just, I mean, I could care less about, say, meeting Madonna. I could care less about meeting Justin Timberlake and I'm not even saying he's not a good actor. I saw him in some movie called Out of Time that I thought was pretty good. It's just, there's something about, you know, there's certain people, it's my love of humanity. That's why it's okay to like Hollywood stars and people at a certain level, because it's about liking humanity. It's about realizing we're made in the image of the Creator. There's a lot of interesting souls out there, because the globalist message is we're trash. Now, the globalists show you the image of Hollywood, though, so you think you're not like them and feel inadequate. But it's the other way around. I have had a chance to... Because before I knew a lot of Hollywood people and other famous folks, there was kind of like, wow, that's that unknown country, that magic place. But getting to meet so many famous people and get to know them, many of them that have reached out to me over the years, it lost its magic, which was a good thing. You know, so many famous people say, wow, once I became famous, I realized it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean really much at all. There's some pluses, there's also some minuses. Being famous is only good if you use it to better the world, because that's the only thing that fulfills, and I'm now ranting. We're going to go to break and come back with calls, and then our guest. I don't mean to get so negative, but the world is negative. If we don't admit the negative in the world, we can't defend the positive, because the positive outweighs the negative, but people tend to not fight the negative, so it takes over. Very simple equation. But the evil is coming out in the open. You notice all this stuff by Big Pharma and all the crimes and all the rest, it's just coming out. Government drug dealing, government gun running. But the government's answer is arm to the teeth and expand and go, okay, you know, we're crooks now, stick them up. Well, you know what? That isn't working. There's a giant arms race. Citizens are buying 3, 4, 5 million guns a month. You know, this is a collision course we're on, is my point. PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com, at the tip of the spear. We'll be right back. Okay, coming up, we're going to look at weather modification. The globalists will ship guns into Mexico to try to restrict the Second Amendment. Would they engage in weather modification, try to push global carbon taxes? The answer is yes. Rosalind Peters of California Skywatch is going to be joining us, and we'll continue with your calls. Let's talk to Allison and then Tom and others. Allison in Texas, you're on the air. Hey, Allison. Okay, she's not there. Let's go to Tom in New York, listening on 1310 AM. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, hi, Alex. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Hey, listen, I've been listening to you live for about, on and off for about a year and a half. I used to, and also download and archive all your MP3s, try to hand them out to any willing participants. But I appreciate what you're doing and getting the word out. I just wanted to comment on some of that information on the TSA. I personally won't fly until this is reversed. I know you had a congresswoman on last week that was talking about a bill she's trying to introduce to get the TSA back to screener status rather than...
Well, I mean, again, it's already illegal. You don't even need a bill to point it out. They've just declared themselves. They are the Stasi force. They're already on the streets. It's just a goon force. They just wear blue overalls now and come up to you on the highway. I'm going to search your vehicle. I mean, it's just all made up craziness.
Well, you know, peaceful resistance, I'm all about it. I mean, when I drive down the street and I see a state cop come the other way and he's got his head turned toward me, I do the exact same thing. I bug out my eyes out at him just like he's bugging his eyes at me. And they turn away. They realize what they're doing, I think. And it's all about that.
I know. It's bizarre when you see cops bugging their eyes out and you're driving down a road, the speed limit, and they fly up on you, and then there's a whole lane right next to you. And it's like, what is the point of that? I mean, this is tyranny, folks. And now the TSA goes, oh, your dad's ashes, and throws it on the ground, or rips off colostomy bags and laughs, or takes kids away as they cry, or makes fun of a group of deaf people, screaming, you effing deafies at them. I mean, it's just, this is what we've become.
It's pretty vicious. I like the Romney approach, though. If you remember during the debates, they could never get, a lot of guys could never get Romney to answer the question. And Romney finally said, well, I don't tell you what questions they ask me, so don't tell me how to answer them. I thought that was a great comment. And if a cop pulls me over and asks me a question like, do you know why I pulled you over? I'm just going to give him the time of day, like look at my watch and say, 3:30. When he asks me why, I'm going to say, well, yeah, I didn't ask you, which questions they asked me. Why are you telling me how to answer them? Get a little bit smart.
The point is the government is involved in child trafficking on record. It's not a government. It's involved in every crime you can imagine at the top, and there's nothing but all these new agencies henpecking us as we go bankrupt by design. I'm done. Exactly. I am just totally and completely through with it. But again, it's not just the bureaucracy. It's the general public are like these incredibly cowardly creatures that roll over and who want to be slaves. And I guess we're just a soft nation of weirdos. I mean, and again, that's not all of us. I'm not here saying I'm Mr. Tough Guy. It's that I recognize I don't like going to third world countries, and I've been to quite a few, because the cops are bugging their eyes out and the people are scared, and it has a feeling of not being free. And my country more and more has the feeling of a dirtbag, pathetic, worn-out joke, and it's sad. Just since I've been alive, this country has gone to absolute hell in a handbasket. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, cops didn't act like they act now, and it's not all of them either. It's certain areas, but they promote and encourage the bad cops. And this isn't even about cops. Now you've got these 80 hours of training, goonoid, not even security guards. They get more training than that. Just running around gooning us. Coming up, Bill and Melinda Gates want to ban normal raw milk because they want to force you to drink new GMO milk and cows that produce, quote, human milk with special vaccines in them. Now, what they call vaccines today, more and more, are actually nanotech viruses. That's what they are. They're engineered viruses that go in and re-engineer the brain by eating different neuron clusters so you, quote, won't be obese, or, that's in the news today, or won't get angry. In fact, you can't get angry. They call it being a zombie. And, of course, they're not just going to wait to get free will by getting you to take the shot. They're going to release it and have the antidote themselves. This is the total maximum evil we're talking about. The globalists are just getting a control grid in place right now to carry this out. That's all they're doing. We're going to go back to your phone calls here in a moment. Taking calls from first-time callers again, 800-259-9231. But let me hit a few more of the other items before we go to your calls, and we have a guest on the geoengineering or weather modification taking place here in the United States and worldwide, tied into all these, quote, strange weather patterns. There's a story out of Fox 13, and it says Obama parade parody causes controversy. Huntsville, Utah had a parade, and one of them was called the Obama Nation, and they called the Secret Service on it and said criticizing our president is illegal. And remember, we can play the newscast. In fact, I had you guys pull that up a few weeks ago, and we never played it. The Truth Squads, the newscast where they say it's illegal to criticize Obama. I want to play that in a moment if you can find that. Thank you. And you've seen the school teachers say you're not allowed to criticize the president. You can be arrested. This is the new attitude. And the media reports on it like maybe that's the case. That's right. You don't have free speech. You don't talk bad about our dear leader. I mean, that's not something you do. I mean, what do you think this is, America? Oh, wait, I guess it used to be, but we're not supposed to. And then there's this article by Kurt Nimmo up at Infowars.com. Pentagon tests drone at civilian air park in Ohio. Oh, Mommy, what are the troops doing running checkpoints? Oh, what are the Marines doing over there? Oh, they're just here acclimating us and admitting it's for martial law preparation. WKRC-TV in Cincinnati, Ohio, has put a friendly spin on the ongoing effort to introduce military technology into civilian realm. The planes look and sound like radio-controlled aircraft that anyone can buy. And by the way, they like these cheap, noisy ones because they want you to know they're there. But they are modified with special systems for research and observation. That's called spying and surveillance, but kind of like the new Army document that's public. They don't even is for gun confiscation. Door to door, it says gun evacuation. Gotta love the Orwellian terms they have here. A lot of things that we use, surprisingly, are from model airplane field. Yeah, they call them switchblades. They weaponize them, too. It's not really the aircraft that we're testing, but the components inside, like the autopilot and flight control system, said Mike Plinkton of the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, they test cheap ones first with their field people. This is standard before giving them the more expensive ones. And it's just how great it is to be surveilled by the Pentagon. Beware the military-industrial complex. We're being absorbed by the bureaucracy. They own the politicians. Those they don't own, that's called being a terrorist. But even the Washington Times has an article out today basically giving props to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, saying that we're basically all terrorists now. In fact, let me give you the exact headline on that. I just type Infowars.com into Google NSA News. Prudent, I guess that's the editor of the Washington Times. The new terrorists, they're all of us. And yeah, they've wired in now my computer where you can actually see what I'm doing on screen. That's awesome. Instead of them having to aim a camera just at what I'm doing, they just punch it up. They're watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. And it just goes on to say that, well, basically, that we're all terrorists. When a country has been taken over by what amounts to a criminal gang, which is what we now have in Washington, the quiet, naturally practical, everyone else in the country who comes to recognize this becomes a political adversary. And it goes on to say that. And the next person's like, why aren't you going after the Muslims? Because the, quote, Muslim extremists work for the globalists and are being given control of the Middle East right now. fact, there's even an article in the London Telegraph today about that. So Al-Qaeda, you didn't know that? It was never about Al-Qaeda. All the hardened bunkers and everything. Go ask the cops if they're training to fight Al-Qaeda or training to fight you. They're training to fight you. And you're like, but I don't want to fight them. Oh, when they come take your guns or they come conscript your children or the new TSA wants to rape your daughter, you're going to end up going after them, and you're going to be on the nightly news and on all the new jumbotrons as a terrorist. And then the party's on. And that's the whole plan. These guys are sitting around bored in the SWAT teams and everything. You know, it's tough having to go to Mexican food restaurants 3 times a day and sit around in their cars all day. I mean, you know, it's time to really have a war with America. And don't worry, it's going to happen, I'm sure. You want it, you're going to get it. Might want to choose which side you're on. But hey, again, the people running our government really are the nice guys, aren't they? Knowingly, in 1999, 13 years ago, the top insurance companies met with the Department of Defense, and they decided, because things were under an emergency since 1933, that they would just take all the death benefits of all the military personnel from World War II right through till now. So they tell you, the Army or Navy or Marines, sign this form, and it takes a small part of your check out for a death benefit life insurance. You can sign it over to your mama, your daddy, your wife, your husband. And you know what? A lot of money built up in there. In fact, over $1 trillion. So they just took it. And it was in the news, Bloomberg, AP. Oh, yeah, when you die, we took it. Because we're the good guys. Yeah, man, because they're fighting Al-Qaeda. Yeah, right, growing the opium. And if you find out about all this like Pat Tillman and you're no longer useful, they just kill you and say you died fighting Al-Qaeda, which turned out to be a lie. And then you tell people this, and they go, yeah, I know that's true, Alex, but I don't want to think about it. Oh, really? You don't want to think about it. You just want to go wave an American flag on the 4th of July. And I'm not saying you're bad. We had them at my house. The point is that you just want to wave that like it's magic. Like if you put out more of them, it'll make it come back. Oh, look, I got an American flag. Look. It's not going to help you. All right, we're going to go to your phone calls. There's a lot of other news here. Brad Pitt's mother is in fear after slamming Obama. Well, yeah, you don't talk bad about that. I don't know how Brad Pitt can know about the New World Order. I'll just leave it at that. I'm talking like 6 years ago. I confirm Brad Pitt knows all about the New World Order, and then he's married to Mrs. CFR, Mrs. World Government. But I guess mommy isn't towing the line. Angelina Jolie looks like she's ready for central casting to play an evil vampire woman. That's enough. That's enough. That story's up at WorldNet Daily. We're going to get Joseph Farah back on because that interview went too quick the other day. I want to get more into the drone he saw. There's a lot of other news we're going to be getting to. Mayor Bloomberg's Agenda 21, dorms for empty nesters. Yes. Oh, and then, of course, there's the nanny state out of control. Fired Florida lifeguard gets key to city, meets man whose life he saved. So people are responding to this properly. There's only one beach. You're not supposed to save somebody in the beach next door. And so the person was dying. He went and saved him. The other lifeguard said, we'll save somebody too, and got fired. But wait a minute. The law, and I looked this up, they have the same similar law in Florida, is Good Samaritan. If you see somebody flip and the car flips and you're the first on the scene, if you don't stop to render aid, you're liable. And it's the same thing here. It's not just your right to overthrow tyranny, it's your duty. We're going to go to break, come back, go right to your calls, 800-259-9231. Before we go any further, though, don't forget when you buy books, tapes, videos, and other great products that wake people up at Infowars.com or InfoWarsShop.com will get you there. It'll get you directly there, InfoWarsShop.com or InfoWarsStore.com. Your purchase makes this whole operation possible. Plus, you get the best materials out there. And by the way, we're the only ones that have this. It's not even for sale yet until the 24th. We have it in stock, 5,000 of them. Dreams from My Real Father, incredible film available at InfoWarsShop.com. And ProPure water filters already at the lowest price they are anywhere. The best gravity-fed filter out there. We have side-by-side comparisons with the leading competitor. You get 10% off on the already lowest price with the code WATER at checkout at InfoWarsShop.com. You can also call here to the office, to our crew, and they can take your order, 888-253-3139, and give you that discount, whether it's the Traveler unit or the big ProPure King water filtration system or the big water filtration system from ProPure. We've also got the shower filters, everything at the lowest prices. Right there, right now, 10% off all the products at InfoWarsShop.com or 888-253-3139 or P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas, 78760. Your phone calls and a ton of news as we chronicle the criminal activities of the New World Order. That's why they're selling millions of firearms a month. Because people know we're in an emergency. World government is openly being announced. The global social engineers are now upon us. Let's go to your phone calls ahead of a ton of news I haven't even gotten to yet on the economy, on politics, on drones, on so much more. But right now, let's go to your phone calls. Anthony in New Jersey, listening on iTunes. You're on the air, Anthony. Welcome.
Alex, great to talk to you.
Yes, sir.
Wow, it's so much to talk about. Well, this is how I see it. New World Order, the bankers, they have their plan, and they're committed, and they know if they don't succeed with this, they're going to fail, and they're going to go to jail, they're going to be prosecuted.
No, that's it. I mean, no, they're totally committed, and that people try to argue with them. People sit there and try to have debates like, oh, they're misguided. No, they're following a public, scientific program of total takeover.
In every facet of our life. Now, the people, and I hear you talk till you're blue in the face, and I do the best I can, try to wake people up, videos, your website, PlanetInfowars.com, the new one you just put out. And I don't think the people, the citizens, realize that this is not going to get better. Every day you come on the radio, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's more aspects of our life.
Now, it's getting cartoon crazy. I can't believe how fast it's moving. But a lot of people are waking up right now. So we have to take heart. There are a lot of people finally waking up to what's happening. But the system just goes ahead with the takeover.
Right. And the last point I want to make is we, citizens, we have to, like the actors, the entertainers, the sports, they know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. You don't get to that level and you don't see and hear things. They know what's going on, but they're keeping their mouth shut. They don't want to talk. They don't want to get involved. And here we are spending $200-300 a ticket to go to their game. And meanwhile, they know the big picture. They know what's going on, and no one's confronting them as well. On top of the media.
That's because of television and movies. The whole corporate world, they meet in these big board meetings. You know, the top Fortune 100 or so, they agree on the program. They incrementally roll this stuff out. That's why it's so hard to beat, is that it's a creeping death. But it's now reached a galloping speed, so take heart, I hear you. All we can do is fight back against it and speak out against it, because we'd be in a lot worse shape right now if folks hadn't been resisting it. They're behind schedule. That's why they're trying to move things forward a lot faster now and kind of skip some of the in-between steps, because they can see that the time is running very, very short for them. That's my point. But for those that are in La La Land, They're in for a very rude awakening. Steve in California, you're on the air.
Alex, thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Hey, I just was over your skies last week, and what I found surprising, I got back into the country via Miami, and in all the years I've traveled, and I mean millions of miles abroad, the first time I'd ever been asked 3 specific times how much money I had on me or monetary instruments. And the last DHS officer just looked me deadpan in the face and said, "How much cash you got on you?"
Yeah, that's what this is all about, is capital controls. And if you would have had silver coins on you, 5 or 6, they would have probably tried to take them. And they admit you're not going to leave the country now if they say you owe them money. No judge, no jury. I mean, things are dark, folks. It takes courage just to stay here. I mean, this is not rhetoric. This is really happening. It's bad. And
the Brazilians themselves, I got data from Brazil, and I'll tell you, they weren't too happy with the Rio Plus 20 crew. To put it quite bluntly, you know, Rio and Copacabana has a pretty famous nightlife, and they're trying to shut all that down, Alex. They're going to make it a family atmosphere, if you can believe it. Well, and that's all as a part of Rio Plus 20. Here and where I live in Temecula, I'm right near Camp Pendleton, a major military facility. And if you get a hold of a copy of the Military Press, the July 1st issue, I think it's very enlightening that the military is not asleep at the wheel with respect to who I refer to as the pimp-in-chief.
I'll tell you what, I want to hear about this issue. Maybe give us the headline again. We'll look it up during the break and come back and talk about it, but stay there. What's it was the what issue?
The Military Press, July 1st issue.
Military Press, July 1st issue. Okay, let's go back to Steve in California. He was bringing up a local military-based publication there in California, the Marine Corps base. And go ahead and tell us what it said.
Well, there was 2 commentaries in there, Alex, and one was basically referring to our commander-in-chief as not paying any attention to the Constitution and performing acts that are basically seditious and being a traitor to our nation and our Constitution. That's what it boiled down to. And
is that a physical newspaper out there?
Yes, it is. In fact, you can go in front of any shopping center, and usually it's a free periodical publication, a monthly publication. In fact, I can grab a copy today, scan it, and send it to you if you'd like. Yeah,
that'd be great. Show tips at Infowars.com. And just put something in there in the byline so we know. But putting it back on screen for radio listeners, we did pull up the site for the local newspaper. What's the name of one of the articles? And we'll search it and put it on screen right now.
Dear Mr. President, and the author was Richard Matz.
No, Dear Mr. President. Yeah, Dear Mr. President should get it. And so this is something that's on the base as well?
Yes. We have a large community right around here in Temecula. % of our population that's, military.
No, I know that. I know that's one of the biggest in the United States. But, the issue here is that's what you should be seeing. You're not supposed to just follow orders. I mean, if the president says grow opium in Afghanistan, you say, no, I'm not going to do it. If the president says ship cocaine in, you say, no, I'm not going to do it. If the president says ship guns, 20,000 of them to Mexico, and hand grenades, you better not do it, especially because if you get caught, they're going to blame it on you, which they've done. So, they keep catching Army and Navy and Marines shipping guns in, and then it goes to court, and the feds try to blame it on them, and it turns out they've been ordered to do it. And then they call them a gang. So people should know that you will be burned. It's like folks that got ordered to torture, and then when it came out, they put them in prison. And then Bush still bragged, oh, but I still ordered the torture. I'd do it again. But then he sent people to prison when they got caught because they're doing illegal things. But did we find that article, gentlemen? We're still looking for it. Well, listen, I'd like you to send me a copy of that. So it is waking the military up that that they are openly there talking about the fact that the United Nations and NATO supposedly commands the military now and not Congress?
Yes. And this is the same base where we have this sergeant just recently who was relieved of his command and I think dishonorably discharged because he posted on his webpage, Facebook, whatever, I can't remember just what it was, his dissatisfaction with the actions of the administration.
Well, again, though, there's also something else happening here. Obama's being blamed for all this. And I hate Rahm Emanuel. I hate Barack Obama. But they're just a mafia team hired because they'll get dirty and get all this done. Everything they're doing is what the big mega banks want. That's why Mitt Romney on his actual policies. Did you see last week when Mitt Romney was like, well, I guess his quote was, the Supreme Court's made its decision and we've got to abide by it. And he went on and said, this is not a tax, it's a penalty, agreeing with the White House. Unprecedented.
I think Jack Abramoff summed it up on that segment he had on 60 Minutes last Sunday. In about one sentence, he just said, the whole damn system's corrupt.
Well, yeah, everybody was saying, oh, listen to Bernie Madoff, you know, saying, hey, I was just trying to compete. Yes, he was a quasi-outsider, even though he created the NASDAQ and he was in the upper echelon, but the bottom of the upper echelon. And he cheated a bunch of globalists, is why he went to jail. No, you're not supposed to do that. You cheat the little guy. You take the military's death benefits. You steal the teacher and police pensions. You do stuff like that. You gut the country, but you don't rip off the ultra-rich. And it's true whenever he gave that interview for New York Magazine, and he said, look, what I'm doing is what the Federal Reserve does. It's absolutely true. But the Federal Reserve, when the Ponzi scheme goes belly up, signs us onto their debt, then has their media lecture us on how it's really our debt and how great they are. Pretty good business if you can get it.
Wonderful to have millions of people as your scapegoat.
You said it.
Check patriots, that's all they are.
You said it, brother. Thank you so much for the call. Great points. Let's talk to Moose in Florida. Moose, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Good.
I think the main word that I found the UN criminal organization is going to put us under is subversion, or is putting us under. All the countries, not only the U.S., but all the countries around the world, they're trying to put everything under one umbrella.
No, that's what they're saying. It's called subversion and sedition if you don't agree to lawless evil. And that's what the John Warren Defense Authorization Act's for. It's what all the public Army manuals for FEMA camps, re-education camps, killing us, confiscating our guns, torturing us, all of it's public. The only question is, will the military actually follow the orders? Well, the globalists aren't just going to wake up one Sunday morning and say, we're big evil government taking over. America has been captured by foreign banks. Well, they actually do go on the news and say that, but they're going to say, we were hit. You know, Chicago was hit by an A-bomb. Militia working with Al-Qaeda or something like that. Or the militia released a bioweapon from the University of Texas at Galveston, something like that. And oh my gosh, we've got to arrest all the people that are saying the government did it because they're trying to sow discord. And a lot of cowards will say, just keep me safe. The stock market plunged by 5,000 points. Arrest them. And the yuppies will line up and say, arrest Alex Jones. He's the reason the stock market went down. And you'll see a lot of others, people we thought our friends in Congress, they'll suddenly line up and agree. That's preposterous to say that criminal elements in government or corporations release the bioweapon. Yes, it's yelling fire in a theater. Arrest anyone that says it. And that's what they're priming for. And then the Civil War starts because, yeah, most people when the cops come to arrest you at your house are going to go, to the camp and be tortured and come out and say that you're a terrorist on the news later. Or be a double agent for them. The torture camps are really about that, to torture you in the camps and then release you as one of their agents later. Or to find innocent people that are weak-minded and just so they can say, oh, they were formerly in a camp, and so you can't believe them now when they get caught, doing something criminal. In fact, most of the Al-Qaeda leading the siege forces all over the Middle East taking over right now and, mutilating women and everything and blowing up the universities and, putting burqas on the women. they were trained in the last 10 years at X-ray. A lot of them were 14 years old, and now they are commanders. You know, U.S. helicopters land, disgorge them with weapons, gold, everything they need to lead the opposition in the takeover. So, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Sir, anything you'd like to add?
No, that's fine. And actually, there's one more point. There's a YouTube video on psychological warfare subversion by ex-KGB propaganda specialist Yuri Bezmenov.
I've seen it.
I'm not pronouncing.
I've seen it.
It's the destruction of social infrastructure in each single country.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you read a KGB takeover plan, it's exactly what the globalists are following. All their tactics are guerrilla warfare. All their tactics are right out of the Soviet manual. But it's run by bankers. But wait, the mega bankers funded Lenin and Stalin. This is it. They want a breakdown. They'll pose as saviors, mass culling re-education. The Rural Affairs Council under the Pentagon is meant to starve everybody out, posing as saviors. The collaborators will be allowed to operate. It is just going to be hell on earth if they're able to launch it. But they are attempting to launch a Soviet-style collapse re-education. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I ask all the info warriors and the callers that speak more than one language to get the word out, because like you said, you quoted before, we're surrounded, and it doesn't matter where you fire the information, it just makes sure it goes out. Doesn't matter which language.
Yeah, that's again the Marine Corps general surrounded in Korea by roughly 10 times his number. It's probably more, but. And they said, sir, we're completely surrounded and cut off. And he said, good, now we can attack in all directions. And they were able to fight their way out. But yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, I'm not up here theatrically saying this. We've analyzed it all. And I'll go read some Soviet re-education document from the 40s and the 50s where they were taking over countries. And it's word for word what Homeland Security's doing. I mean, it's everything they do is a psychological operation to destroy the country. And it's just so off the charts crazy. I can't believe it's happening. I don't blame people for not believing this. I'm getting chills right now. I appreciate your call. It's so horrible. We should be able to just not do this. Can't we just not do this? Does this have to happen? I mean, why? Why? And so many people are cowardly going to serve this just because it's so scary deep down inside. They're going to make excuses to themselves. Terry in Texas, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Pleasure. I've got a TSA victory story for you.
Okay, tell me.
Well, my daughter was flying internationally last week at a DFW airport, and this was her first time to fly. She was going to be flying by herself.
Oh, that's where they went in Miss USA's pants, yeah.
Well, that was really a concern, and me and my wife, we were praying about it, and that was really our only concern with her flying internationally. So we get to the airport, we go to the check-in to check in her baggage, and we ask if there's any way we can get in the airport with her, because she was flying by herself. And it was myself, my wife, my son, and my daughter, who's 15, and she's really cute, so I just wanted to be along with her. And the lady's like, well, we can give one pass. And so she checks in her bag, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give you all passes so you can get in. We start walking up to the gate. You know, I thought they'd be eyeballing my daughter, but it's like they were looking at my son. He was a supermodel coming up to the TSA screening counter. And,
your phone broke up for a minute. Who were they Pepe Le Pewing?
That was my son.
Oh yeah, that's mainly their favorite. So what else happened?
So we go in there. We go in and they say, okay, you need to go to the right, which is the body scanner. And my wife says, you know, we don't want to do that. So they yell opt out. And then a guy probably in his 50s comes around and he just grabs us and he's like, don't worry about it, and puts us through the metal detector. And that was it. They didn't touch us. But they were actually body scanning people, and they were groping them after the body scans. And it was just, you know, we got out of there without even being touched.
Well, thank God for that. What they've done more and more is that they know we're at the breaking point, so it's guerrilla warfare. When they know that when you're going to get mad, they back off. When you give in, they do more and more and more and more and more, including taking women's tops off, saying, I want to date with you. They just had to settle a lawsuit. Was it in Amarillo for that? I mean, they are TSA, I'm not joking, folks, will multiple times strip down naked and begin running around screaming, I'm God. I mean, who else wants to act like this all day? Somebody who's got good self-image, intelligent, competent, would be embarrassed to treat anybody like this. But again, this is the psych warfare. If there's a real threat, which of course it's manufactured, you would profile. But they're like, no, we're politically correct. So we take the diaper off a 1-year-old. Or we make an old woman strip search. It's about being outrageous and over the top. What do you think of the group of deaf people coming in from a conference being attacked and being screamed at and called deafies and all this stuff and having their stuff stolen in front of them?
Oh, it's disgusting. And one thing my daughter said when we got out, she said, you know what, I thought Alex was exaggerating about these people. And you know what, it was worse than we even thought it was going to be. These people look like just, stereotypical pedophiles.
Oh, I know. Listen, if you're walking down a street at night and you see a guy with trash cans coming out the back of a restaurant, you know it's somebody that works there. You instantly look that they're wearing an apron, they've got a hairnet on, whatever. Or if you're walking down an alley to your parked car from a meeting or whatever, and you see giggling women who look like they're drunk, you instantly make a decision, that's girls having fun. It's not even conscious. Okay, there's a guy it's not that I'm living in fear, but if I'm cutting through to get to my car or something at midnight or something after a business meeting or whatever, and I'm downtown, I'm scanning. So I scan, okay, that's a guy taking the trash out. All right, that's some drunk women. All right, that's a male by himself. Instant scan, clean cut. Statistically, criminals generally, wear a uniform. That's how stupid they are. Statistically not a threat, but I'll still walk on the other side. But you see 4 or 5 guys, gangbanger type, acting tough, giggling. You can see the predator look, how they'll be bouncing on their toes, whether they're black, white, old, young, Hispanic. It's the same attitude of thinking they're tough. They're sizing you up like a group of wolves. You as a human have instant analysis of what the situation is. And TSA wasn't like this even 5-6 years ago. They are fully now shifting in because normal folks are getting out of there. I've had a lot of them actually come to our rallies and stuff against the TSA. And now it's shifting into criminals. The body language, the look, everything is these are criminals. And you're absolutely right. And it's a collection of just ne'er-do-well scum. And the globalists knew that. They knew the good people are going to get out, and it's going to be nothing but absolute scum. And this is going to be their new Stasi army to pour out on the streets of America. Final comment on that.
Well, Alex, I believe it was nothing more than the hand of the Lord, and it was like being in that Star Wars where these are not the droids you're looking for, and you know what? It was God with His hand on us, and He just delivered us from our worst fears, and you know what? We're just thankful to Him.
Well, thank you. God bless you. And again, folks, if you don't have children, it is scary. A 15-year-old daughter, that would be somewhat scary, but imagine your 3-year-old girl or boy. And, kids don't like strangers to begin with. It's a good instinct. And they take them and go, okay, come over here. And the little kid gets drug away. I've seen it with their arm out towards mama. They're like, stand back, no. And then they take them and put the little kid in a cage. The little kid's scared, looking around, being traumatized. And then here comes the pedo, like an eel coming right up. It's pedo time. I mean, it's incredible. I was thinking of the nerve of all of these different big pharma companies to knowingly sell you drugs that they know are going to kill you and don't even protect you. Whether it's for measles, mumps, rubella, the human papillomavirus, Gardasil, H1N1 flu, they knew it didn't protect you and actually hurt you. That all came out. And here it is in the news. I mean, they knew Luvox or Vioxx would kill a bunch of people. They knew that this, and made tens of billions a year, that this Advair did not protect you, did not help, made asthma worse, and would cause all sorts of endocrine failure and death. And they've paid a tiny fine of, what, $1 billion. And they go on to describe in the previous reports, during the same period of time, the U.S. Department of Justice began a lengthy investigation of Glaxo, resulting in recent civil and criminal fines of $3 billion of improper off-label marketing of antidepressants Paxil and Wellbutrin and Advair. And it just goes on. How they sell all this as if it's good for you, knowing it's bad. Folks, they knew in the trials of Prozac that it caused massive increases in suicide and violent activity. They know all this. They know exactly what they're doing. And again, if you study the real world, if you watch my film Endgame or all the reports I've done or that Aaron Dykes has done, I always say the banking cartels are at the top of the New World Order. That's not really true. The globalists get their power out of banking and out of the fact that they can issue unlimited fake currency and credit and different financial instruments, and then control the regulators, and so it's not seen as fraud, but it is fraudulent. So that's where they get their power from, but who they are is Big Pharma. They're obsessed with it, medical tyranny. And it's the big insurance companies, Big Pharma, that on record wrote the healthcare law. And now they're saying they're going to shift. And by the way, my dad is in healthcare. He's in healthcare management as well. So I get to hear about this all the time, about how everything is shifting towards government control and towards drugs, where they're trying to say doctors, dentists, you name it, can't even do the treatments they think are best. You've got to come in and give the treatment. Well, you heard last week, I had Dr. Blaylock on about it. This is social engineering, and this is what's going on. And then I was thinking about the nerve of Google in a press release in 2005 saying we use the microphones and cameras on the computers to listen to you with AI computers, and then we sell the data. And we wrote articles about it, and people said, oh, you're insane, this couldn't be true, with a link to their press release on Google's website. Now, here we are 7 years later, it's like, oh, yeah, tell me something I don't know. How do we go from that would never happen to, oh, yeah, it's no big deal? Driving around worldwide with tens of thousands of Google cars, many of them now robotic. A whole bunch of states have robot cars driving around on them, with these big antennas on top that instantly crack the codes, because they're designed with back doors, they're the NSA, to steal all the data off your computer, your username, passcode, everything. And then what do they get? A slap on the wrist. Google fined $22.5 million for ignoring customers' privacy settings, the largest penalty ever imposed by U.S. Federal Trade Commission. Because, oh, you set your privacy settings where they can't do it? They don't care. They do whatever they want. You know, we're not talking about some cookies, folks, so, you know, Amazon knows what you ordered last time. We're talking about breaking into your computer, and they're not getting in trouble for it. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to look at weather modification. Is the weaponized weather system being used to destroy crops, not just here, but worldwide? You bet it is. In fact, guys, when you look up Pentagon weather weapons and other governments, just print me a few articles on that just so I can show it to folks. Coming up with our guest. Right now, let's go to some more phone calls. Paris in Ohio. You're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hey, how's it going, Alex?
Pretty good, brother. Thanks for putting up with me. What's on your mind today?
I got some drone news out of Dayton, Ohio. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a lot of local industry involved in this area with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base developing drone technology. And a friend of mine attends a local community college, Sinclair Community College, and a few weeks ago he had a gentleman from an organization called Information Control Corporation come in and was talking about their work with drones in our area and he said that there's already drones in the sky over Dayton, Ohio, and they've already contributed to dozens of arrests. And they fly at high altitude and use high-resolution cameras to just zoom in on whatever they want to zoom in on. And,
yeah, with taxpayer money, it's unlimited. Just take another house, take another farm, buy a bunch of drones. It's actually in the news with the Pentagon in Ohio today. This is Pentagon test drones at civilian air park in Ohio, and they go on to say it's part of surveilling the public. Again, this is just totally training you that you're the enemy. It has nothing to do with stopping crime, all these cameras, the rest of it. It's all about surveilling you and making you feel powerless. That's what government wants you to feel like. And yes, this is the new economy, is, as I've said, surveillance, checkpoints, drones, armored vehicles, as one side of the society basically absorbs or resorbs the other side of society.
I agree, and that's why we just try to get out on the streets and participate in your contests and do our own kind of things to just continue to try and wake up our community. You know, we were out hanging posters the other day and for the latest contest, and it's amazing. I mean, everybody you talk to, I mean, they know that the government's crooks, and they know that our rights are being violated, and, you know, Obama's a scumbag and Romney's a scumbag. But I think a lot of people just don't realize to what extent, you know, the control grid's being set up. And, you know, we're just trying to spread the word and, you know, hopefully turn the tide against these people.
Well, I totally agree with you. Well said. That's why we're having the Stop Obama Dictator contest that's extended through this Friday. I've been so busy, I haven't gone out and hung them up yet. I am going today. I am going today to hang up posters and shoot video and talk about why I'm doing it. And then we'll air that tomorrow here on the show. But everybody, post your own posters. You know, there's poison in the water, fluoride. The vaccines are deadly. Big Pharma wants to kill you. Foreign banks took over America. That's why we had the V for Victory contest. We should just bring that back. Don't have to have a contest to do it. We've got to show people the power of the grassroots. That's why I cannot state enough. We've been delisted by Google on Google News. We get harassed. They try every form of censorship in corporate America. It doesn't matter. You, the people, spreading the word about Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. We're hiring new reporters. We're expanding in the face of tyranny. We're expending the capital that we've accrued in an all-in fight against the globalist. Because people now are beginning to realize this is really real. Again, as I've said 100 times, this is not a boss hog takeover. That would not be good. Because a boss hog takeover leads to a hot tyranny. We've had boss hog in charge for probably 80, 90 years. Now, boss hog died, folks. We got the devil. And the globalists want to kill the majority of the world population. Everything that you're seeing is only the buildup towards a global straitjacket to tie us down so the scientific technocracy can engage in an orderly extermination. Now, what are we going to do about it? Okay, we had Rosalind Peterson of Skywatch lined up. Her phone's busy. We'll see if that... She's been a frequent guest over the years. We'll see what happens with that. She's always interesting, but I'm not that worried about it because I kind of want to take your phone calls and cover news. But here is the report that this was going to be based on, and we'll go to your phone calls. Napolitano on the weird weather and climate change. There's a pattern here, she said. Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano this week linked climate change with wildfires hitting Colorado. Well, there's always climate change. Napolitano said there's a pattern here, and she noted the summer wildfires as well as the East Coast heat wave and the high-velocity winds that whipped through the mid-Atlantic last week. Thousands of people remain without electricity because of the windstorm. People always had big fires and big windstorms and big prairie fires. Some summers are always hotter than others. But I've always pointed out that there is weather manipulation and modification going on. It's admitted that billions a year are spent by the Department of Energy alone and Department of Defense engaged in weather modification. I remember it was in the San Antonio Express News, got to be like 12 years ago, as a footnote blurb. They had flooding that killed over 30 people in one day in South Texas. And then they said, oh, and the Air Force says the weather modification drills they were doing to cause rain had nothing to do with it. It's almost like that gun you saw me shoot your neighbor in the head with. It had nothing to do with his head getting blown off. The point is, this stuff's been going on forever. And they can easily and have admitted that they will use it as a weapon against countries that don't pay off their IMF, World Bank loans, you name it. The globalists are all about playing God. That's what all the GMO is about, that in the major studies that are out there screws up the gut flora. The GMO corn, wheat, you name it. And then don't worry, Bill Gates is coming out with patents on new GMO milk that gives you new gut flora. He's spending billions on it. And he's involved in the weather modification as well, because this is where the whole future is going. They're engineering our future and not asking us questions about it. They're releasing the GMO mosquitoes and not asking us. I have a guest on the Nightly News tonight covering that. Salem News did a good job of this. Gates and Monsanto go after milk in the near future. By the way, guys, there was a New York Daily News article about the Hatari militia guy getting his guns back. I meant to cover Sunday. After I take calls, I want to cover that. Will you re-pull that article or print it for me? Just because it implied having guns was terrorist. And I just want to illustrate how disconnected the so-called corporate media is. Well, they're not disconnected. They're operatives of the globalist. So what's their answer to less and less of us believing their bull? Bringing internet censorship in to shut down their competition. That's their answer. But I digress. Gates and Monsanto go after milk. And the reason I want to cover this is we've been talking about this the last few years. Gates is putting billions into gut flora research. And take just the BT corn. If bugs eat it, they die. A few months ago, I made a big joke out of it, a sick joke, because there was a Washington Post headline. In fact, I can pretty much give you the exact headline. You can look it up yourself. Washington Post, Monsanto says farmers not planting. Monsanto says farmers not following planting rules for insects. Monsanto says farmers not following rules. And then hidden in the article, it said, yeah, you're supposed to plant refuge crops that are 1/3 of your regular crop so bugs have something to eat, because it's not good to have all the bugs die in the area. And so under environmental agreements, bugs dying is bad. You dying is good, basically. And in fact, they found the article. There it is. Makers of genetically modified seeds say more farmers evading EPA rules. I think that's it. Yeah. Print it. Monsanto Co. and other seed makers reported a 3-fold increase last year in U.S. farmers caught violating rules intended to stop insects from developing resistance to genetically modified corn. The rules affect farmers planting seeds modified to produce the toxin delivered from Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT, a natural insecticide. There's poison in plants. They can call it natural, but it grows about 1,000 times stronger than it normally does, is the point. And then you eat it. The Environmental Protection Agency requires those growers to also plant an adjacent area, a so-called refuge, of BT corn, so that bugs feed on both types of corn and don't become immune to the toxin. About 41% of the 3,053 farmers inspected, you got to get inspected when you buy seeds from these guys, in 2011, they're really just GMO organisms, failed to comply with the refuge requirement according to data that Monsanto provided last week. Seed companies are concerned that bugs' resistance to modified crops may be increasing. All right, let's stop right there. Gets into the BT gene engineered. They've got it where it creates a poisonous fungus. Another one creates a poisonous bacteria. Conservatively, 1,000 times. I think the number was 1,200 and something times on average stronger. But plants can also mutate and have it a lot stronger. And so their argument is, well, it's natural. Well, I can pick up a natural 20-pound rock and bash your brains out with it, too. A lot of plants grow cyanide, strychnine. A lot of plants grow high levels of arsenic in them. There are silver nightshade grows all over Texas out in fields. Witches would take it to hallucinate in Old England. I don't want to get folks excited to take it. It's very dangerous. The point is, you eat about a leaf of that, you're going to have a violent hallucination before your heart explodes. Does that make it okay because it's natural? I always love folks that say, but it's natural. It's natural. But they unnaturally engineer the plant to not have it growing on the outside of the corn, but the corn grows it inside, and then bugs eat it, and what do bugs do? Bugs fall over and die, but they say it's safe for you to then eat it. And then suddenly you see off the charts incredible different intestinal and stomach disorders, irritable bowel, Crohn's. I mean, it is, guys, type in massive increase in Crohn's, massive increase in intestinal disorders. I mean, I don't want to exaggerate here because I have to do the math. Like, I don't know the math of 1 in 25,300 having autism 29 years ago, and now it's 1 in 58. What 1,000% increase is that? I don't know. I've done the math on the cancer. Pediatric cancers, depending on the type, would be 1 out of 2 million in the 30s, and then now that same pediatric cancer is 1 out of 20-something thousand. I mean, you've got to look up the numbers yourself and do the metric increase. But the point is, it's straight up, out of sight, insane, in your face. But my point is that gut disorders are just everywhere. And there's toxicity in the gut that then causes chronic toxicity in the brain. Those two are connected. Just devastating effect on our society. And Bill and Melinda Gates, who own part of Monsanto and who are also part of eugenics operations worldwide and caught doing all form of, sterilization, you name it, funding UN programs, and more and more of this is coming out. We've been talking about it for 10 years. Finally, they're going, wait a minute, they're funding forced abortion. Wait a minute, they're going to forced abortion conferences. Wait a minute. They do say get rid of the population. They do want death panels. Yeah, I know he dresses like a non-threatening nerd. Now, there's a pubmed.gov, the increasing prevalence of Crohn's disease in industrialized societies, the price of progress. In fact, we've got a New Yorker magazine article talking about sterility in the West, and just says, well, it's part of the way it is. Anyways, this is being done by design. It's not the average toxins that are the main contributor. It's the GMO crops. Over 80% of the filler foods, the corn, the soybeans, the wheat, the sugar beets, do I need to go on? All the major food crops now are over 80%. When I say 80, I'm guessing down. On average, there's metrics of this. 89% of U.S. corn, GMO, and it just goes down the list. I'm just saying 80%. It's actually over that. But the averages vary. You are being bombarded with this, okay? Okay, so you're a woman, your hair's falling out, your thyroid's going out at 35. You just got diagnosed with cancer, your sister did. Really hurting women. All this is going on. You're being murdered. You're being murdered. Murdered. Let me say it again. Murdered. Yeah, there's the mosquito solution. Can genetic modification eliminate a deadly tropical disease? Oh, yes. Genetic modification. They're going to make you take a shot through the mosquito. Oh, and look, Obama's smiling on the cover. He's your doctor now. It's trendy. He's black. It must be okay. Again, just total political correctness. Doesn't matter what color these people are. They're a bunch of globalist killers. And it goes on to say, Bill Gates pays for experiments to genetically modify humans. Bill Gates just gave $8.3 million grant to develop GMO designer humans by simply altering, deleting, or adding certain gut bacteria and fungi. Corporations create designer human consumers in the near future. So they're advertising, they're going to do this to you and then make you have to buy stuff from them. They don't even hide the business model. Oh, you're dying from Crohn's? Well, finally, Bill Gates has got something for you. And look, he's a smiling little guy. He's a nice man wearing a suit. I mean, come on, So what if your kid, has to get their guts chopped out and dies in surgery with Crohn's? I mean, so what? And it just goes on to say that, and fungus, corporations can create designer human customers in the future, and Bill Gates wants to do just that. starting by, quote, spiking. That's the word they use. The milk that a toddler drinks, Gates and corporations he licenses could potentially make a human short, tall, smart, dumb, submissive, aggressive, autistic, this is what they say, savant, healthy, or constantly in need of pharmaceutical drugs, or depend on Windows computer-based assistants for the rest of their life. Not joking, see? They know the gut is causing the brain damage. Their engineering is through it. We'll be right back. You see, nerves come out of your brain and grow into your eyes in utero inside your mother. And, of course, you have your spinal cord that is connected to your brain and nerves that go into your stomach. And so just like you drink and then you get a buzz in your brain, or you eat and you get energy in your brain, the system knows they're attacking our brain through the food. The dyes, the preservatives, all of it. And Bill and Melinda Gates make money owning Monsanto. They pretty much control it on destroying your gut flora. And now they're going to give you the treatment to where, oh, babies don't have gut flora anymore. We have a treatment. And then your baby gets a new gut flora genetically designed by them. Human milk produced in cows' udders. So you're allowed to survive. That's the business model. Cut your legs off, sell you bionic legs, basically. But, of course, they have the back door to it. And that's why now the miniaturization has gotten inexpensive enough now that they can launch drones basically over every neighborhood. And so they're going to do it, and you're going to pay for it. And they're going to make money off of it while they rape your privacy. And if you don't like that, a SWAT team will drop by. And they're going to continue to raise the taxes till you lose your property. And they're going to take it. And so the world turns. And they know exactly what they're doing. But don't worry, Big Sis was asked by the Hill newspaper about what she thought about the bad weather. Asked point blank if the wildfires were caused by climate change, Napolitano responded, it could be a lot of different things. But then she explained and expanded her view, which seemed to make a connection between climate change and the weather events. You have to look at climate change over a period of years, not just one summer, Napolitano said. You could always have one abnormal summer, but when you see one after another, then you can see and say, yeah, there's a pattern here. Funny, all this climate change that they say is going on. Well, number one, climate change is the only thing that is constant, is change. That's number one. But number two, if there's giant ongoing weather modification going on all over the world, and the Pentagon has documents like Owning the Weather 2025, and they admit they're doing all these tests, why shouldn't that be looked at? Why shouldn't that be discussed? Because if governments love to exacerbate crises and then pose and offer the solution, and have been caught doing it time and time again, shouldn't they be the prime suspects here? That's the question. Now, this is a short segment. We're going to go to break and come back and go to David, Jim, Michael, Jake, actually, first, because he's been holding the longest, and then Donald. We're going to get to all of you after this break, and then I will get to all the news I have not yet covered, and there is quite a bit of it on the economy and what's happening in the Middle East. We're also going to be looking at some of the latest things that old Mitt Romney is up to. I did get the latest issue of Military Press that's published in Southern California and is at Camp Pendleton. There's the cover of it if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv. Got some great Made in America hardware there on the cover of it. And indeed, I did find the articles that the caller was talking about, where they talk about the commander-in-chief being involved in unconstitutional activity. They're talking about how do you legalize illegal aliens when the president can't act unilaterally. That's the publisher. They've got articles in here about the United Nations and the takeover. So, yeah, the fact that you haven't heard a controversy about this being on the base shows that they're starting to understand what's happening. Because, listen, the criminals, the enemy, the globalists, they took over the country a long time ago. And if we want to be conquered, that's fine. It's just those conquering us are the very most horrible people you can imagine. Okay, I'm going to run through some of your phone calls, and then I'm going to rush through some very important news. The big drug companies, the same ones who've all been caught selling drugs they know don't treat what they say and that they kill you, or giving you vaccines that actually give you what they say it's fighting, knowingly to spread it, to then scare others to take the shots. They now are pushing to put kids on Oxycontin, the stuff that made Rush Limbaugh go deaf, and they're trying to, at the same time, make children take their deadly vaccines. We're going to be breaking all of that down here in just a moment. But right now, let's go to David in Canada, then we'll go to Jake and others. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Pretty good, my friend.
I got a few comments. I recently lived in Pennsylvania, Lebanon County, and during the Obama elections, I had decided to leave because I did not want to be ruled by a communist. One of the things I did, I had moved to Canada. And with this new health care passing, I have a message for all Americans. Don't bother leaving. Don't bother leaving America now, because the IRS has it. If you owe any debt, you can't leave. If you come to a doctor up here, they're going to tell you to Google it. You don't even get an appointment. You do not get a doctor's appointment. The doctor tells you to Google it.
Oh, I've seen this new spam on our YouTube channel and at Infowars.com where they say, in a socialist system, there's 100% unemployment. I'm having a Freudian slip. There is 100% employment, and everything is wonderful. And they actually believe this. They like, oh, the Soviet Union, Communist China. They have no idea, because they're taught in public school and in college that socialism and communism is a good thing. It's amazing. They're just helpless little morons.
I had married a Canadian girl, and she waited 18 months. 18 months just for a test for carpal tunnel. Another thing, I want to make a comment to all your listeners. Like I said, I'm American-born. I lived in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, right by Hershey, Pennsylvania, where they make the candy.
They make it in Mexico now, pal.
And I'll tell you what, Alex, I am appalled at I don't know how to say it, but I cannot understand why.
I know why you're distracted. I know why you're distracted. Somebody just turned the radio on.
Nation on earth, why the citizens of the United States are not standing up and saying no. I don't get it.
Well, I hear you, because if somebody's wearing a uniform, I'm convinced if somebody in a uniform told the average American, stick your baby in a garbage disposal, they would salute and say, yes, sir, and do it. I mean, America is the opposite of how it was founded now. The average person is a posing, mindless jellyfish. Now, that's not everybody, but they're about 50%. And of the other 50%, it runs the gamut. And I'm not trying to be negative here. It's just very scary what people have turned into. But let me mention one news article before I go back to your calls. Here it is right here. The caller called in the last hour about this. It's military press, big free periodical publication in Southern California. This is on the base at Camp Pendleton. It's targeting veterans and current active duty. And I have had a chance to read over this now, and it sounds like Alex Jones wrote half the articles. All hail Emperor Obama. And then it goes over the fact that he says the UN runs our military and that world government is good and that he can shut down our power plants if he feels like it and that he can do whatever he wants. There you go. And the whole magazine is like that. Well, it does have the retro pinup girls from World War II with modern little God's creations there. But I actually read... that's why we miss the music. That's why but I read military press for the articles. Okay, that's enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing here with the news. Look, it is time to stop complying with it all. When you go to the airport and some TSA person wants to grope you, dress them down. Say, good, call the cops. Get there an hour and a half early. Make a whole ordeal out of it. Stand up to them. And when people hiss at you and say they're just doing their job, what, doing their job to destroy the country? Doing their job? They're on the highways now, you idiot. And again, it's not just the TSA. It's all of it. Stop acting like they're heroes and we're in a war zone and you got to do it because Al-Qaeda is hiding under the table. This is all being done because we've been taken over by foreign mega banks. And I'm going back to the calls, but guys, go to that clip since you found it. This is from 4 years ago during the campaign. And the reason I raise this is the Secret Service is now being dispatched to people that criticize Obama. A case out of Florida, they had a float in the community parade calling Obama an abomination. Locals called the Secret Service on them, and the media acts like maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you shouldn't talk bad about Obama. So here is a clip from the news, and this happened nationwide, and it's happening again. This is the authoritarianism we're dealing with in this country. So use the First Amendment or lose it. People ask why I'm saying get our flyers, calling Obama a dictator and post him everywhere, because he's trying to become one. And if he doesn't get in trouble for this, it will set the precedent for the next puppet president. Here is that clip.
Senator Barack Obama's presidential campaign is asking Missouri law enforcement to target anyone who lies or runs a misleading television ad during the presidential campaign. This was John Mills is live at the County Election Board in Maplewood. He's been learning more about which members of law enforcement are getting involved in this. John, tell us more about this.
Russell, good evening. Prosecutors and sheriffs from across Missouri are joining something called the Barack Obama Truth Squad. Two high-profile prosecutors are part of the team. We met them this afternoon in the Central West End. They are Jennifer Joyce from the city, Bob McCullough, the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney. They will be reminding voters that Barack Obama is a Christian who wants to cut taxes for anyone making less than $250,000 a year. They also say they plan to respond immediately to any ads and statements that might violate Missouri ethics laws.
We want to keep this campaign focused on issues. We don't want people to get distracted, and Missourians don't want to be distracted by these divisive character attacks. So we're here to respond to any character attacks, to set the record straight.
Whether it is directly attributable to the campaign or to one of the soft money operations, if they're not going to tell the truth, then somebody's got to step up and say, wait a minute, that's not true, this is the truth.
Now, the Obama campaign tells News 4 that others, prosecutors and sheriffs, are also part of the team, including some from the Kansas City area and from rural parts of Missouri. We're also told the Truth Squad is expected to include Jefferson County Sheriff Glenn Boyer. Live in Maplewood, John Mills, News 4.
John, thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. We're here to remind you that we decide what reality is. And you'll be arrested. We'll decide if what you're saying isn't true. If you say he's not a Christian, we're going to arrest you. We want to keep this campaign about the issues. Imagine, these are police and prosecutors who were so authoritarian, they sit there on the news like it's North Korea with a straight face saying, we're going to keep this friendly. We're gonna tell you what to do. We're going to, and you know what? People got scared all over the country. They have the same truth squads shutting down people's websites right now. You get a notice from your provider, or they just turn you off. Oh, the truth squad says that Obama's not involved in Fast and Furious. We're having to shut down your website right now. Oh, Google said, you know what? You're not allowed to sell a T-shirt as Obama as the Joker. Mr. Jones, your Google account is suspended. We may turn it back on someday. So I still have it, still get alerts. I guess because Google likes to keep, data mining me. I mean, it's just, we just have an account. It's not hooked up to anything, but we had one. So they're like, oh, your account's suspended. You don't sell a shirt showing him as the Joker. You bad American. You bad American. You shut your pie hole, pal. That's what freedom's about, okay? So I thought I'd play that in the last few weeks because I mentioned it, and I saw comments on a video because I scan over them because I find a lot of interesting tips in there. Going, he's a liar. They don't tell you they'll arrest you. This Jones is really. I've got newscasts out of Illinois and out of Vermont, of all places, saying the exact same thing. And I've got them this year. The school teacher going, you're not allowed to talk bad about Obama. You will be arrested. And the student was like, well, I have a First Amendment. She's like, you shut up. You shut up. No, you don't. And you know what? The school upheld her and said, you know what? Good job. In fact, I remember the Army and Marine Corps recruiters in Houston and in Denver, Colorado, Houston, Texas. Remember 5-6 years ago that got caught going into the schools, 14, 15-year-olds, getting them to verbally pledge or claim they had that when they became 18 or 17, they joined the military. And they started recording them going, I'm going to come and arrest you tomorrow now that you're 18 if you don't come sign this commitment paper. Sir, I never said I'd do that, and you talked to me 3 years ago, and I said I'd think about it. I don't have. I'm going to arrest you. Is that clear? I'm coming with police right now. That was standard procedure. They got caught. Both those guys got promoted, right? A year later. That's what this is all. And hey, folks, if you want to live in a country like this where we kill babies with abortion, and now they say kill old people, and where they take pride, and you don't want any due process or any protection, okay, enjoy. They're going to take everything. And I want to just tell all the little enforcers something too. You're not going to have fun enforcing this. It doesn't matter, though. You'll get yours. You're going to get hurt by your own masters. That's my little enjoyment. But I tell you, I didn't know they could stack garbage so high. I see it everywhere. I didn't know they could stack stupid, mindless scum who have no idea what reality's like just everywhere. Just simpering, effeminate men who think they're tough and strut around acting tough everywhere. In the old days, men were real polite because they'd been around. And you went around acting tough like that, you get your brains bashed out. I'm so sick of it. You people want tyranny, you're going to get a full, giant, double helping of it. Just like those babies who you say aren't human are in the dark getting chopped up by a big old sickle. Well, it's all coming down on this country. And it makes me want to throw up, I tell you. You'll find out. Just listen, don't believe me. Take all the vaccines, drink all the fluoride water, eat all the GMO, and enjoy going to funerals for your kids and yourself. I mean, enjoy it. It's what you want. It's what you get. It's everything you ever wanted, everything you ever needed. You begged for it. You wanted it. It was fun. You're going to get it all. I've got more news I've got to get to. Let's go quickly to calls. Jake in Kansas, you're on the air, sir. Better not talk bad about the government, buddy. We got police that are watching. Doesn't that sound like a free country?
No, sir. But, hey, man, first-time caller. Like, I love your films. I got your app on the iPhone. And I'm a younger info warrior, and just everybody in Kansas is doomed. I try to get your show out to everybody, and it's just terrible.
Oh, there's a lot of good people in Kansas. I get a little negative, too. But, look, they're in a trance, sir. You can get them out of the trance. What do you tell them about the tyranny, and what do they say? Not that it doesn't exist, but that what are you going to do about it, right? They've gone from not saying it doesn't exist to what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's, I get all my friends, I try to show them Terror Storm, even Police State, it's kind of more catchy. they don't even get 5 minutes into it, man. It's terrible. But
How old are you? How old are you? Like 18?
No, I'm 19. I turned 20 in August.
Well, a lot of times, some young people want to wake up, but sometimes they don't. The best groups to hit are like 30 to 40 because they're actually working in the workforce. They know they're getting hammered. They want to wake up. Look, move on from people that don't care, who just want to go play video games all day. Okay? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was calling to say, you know, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was watching it Decoded. It just caught my eye because it was about the Bohemian Grove. And, you know, I was about to turn it off until they actually mentioned your name, you know, how you snuck into it. And I just wanted your comments on the man and the woman who, like, you're in the boat with. Like, they just seem like they didn't even know where they were at, like how serious the Grove is. And
well, here's the deal. I agreed to be on that TV show, and so it's not very friendly or professional to break bread with people and then talk bad about them. But that's who they selected for the show, was just average Joe Schmo, Sally Soccer Mom, Joe Sixpack. And they were interviewing me at a theater there in the little town of Monterey. And I'm like, they had a bartender there who was serving us food, lunch and stuff, you know, part of the theater, because they rented the whole thing. And the guy basically told me, hey, I work at the Bohemian Grove, but don't worry, I won't tell on you. And I went and told him, and I said, look, they're going to be waiting. We got to call this off. You're going to get arrested. And to them, they live in such a naive little world. They went, oh, no, come on, don't be paranoid. I said, all right. So when we got there and landed on the backside, they had the police waiting up in the woods. And they went up there, and the cops grabbed them and came running down at me. And I just said, I jumped in the water. Yeah, I'm not going to jail just because I pulled up on a high water line legally and lawfully. You're allowed to go up to that. And I knew they were waiting in there. Because, see, I'm a conspiracy theorist, see, because I live in the real world, and the bartender's going, you know what, I hang out with George Herbert Walker Bush, and I've played bongos with him naked, and this actually happened, and I don't appreciate you talking bad about it. You know, so what if we do rituals in there? And I'm like, okay, dude, want some more orange juice? Want another taco? They had Mexican food in there. And I went over to the director, and I said, listen, they know we're coming. I said, you need to quit blabbering. And the guy looked at me and went, oh, yeah, right, Alex. They're going to get me? Are the helicopters going to? I shouldn't. They were all nice guys, just very naive. Okay, so there's your answer about that Decoded episode I was in.
Cool, man. That's all I want to know. You know, I just want to give a shout-out to Aaron Dykes and Rob Dew. You know, I love the nightly news.
Well, I'm doing it tonight, brother, and they're all doing a great job as well. And we're about to hire a bunch of reporters who are going to be doing it sometimes. They're out there doing man on the street. Thank you so much. Yeah, I got all this news I got to get to, and I got loaded phones here. I don't know what to do. We're going to come back, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't help it. I'm going to hit the news and then get to Donald at least, but I've got to get to some of this news here. Stay with us. PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com. Okay, I saw this article in New York Daily News. Indiana militiaman gets back his 41 guns, 100,000 rounds of ammunition from the feds. I've got 41 guns or more. I don't think I have 100,000 rounds of ammo. Thomas Hightick, member of the Atari militia, was charged with plotting to kill police officers and overthrow the government, but was acquitted by a judge in March who cited insufficient evidence. And all the feds had was driving down to the Knob Creek machine gun shoot from Michigan. Was the leader of this little militia. They're like, you know, the feds like, what do we do if they try to confiscate the guns and have martial law and collapse everything and come to kill us? Well, I guess we may have to fight then. I mean, that's Declaration of Independence. Boom, all arrested, all fake. And that federal judge is going to get in a lot of trouble now because they weren't a total criminal. And the judge just said, release them. Now, they still kept 2 because they could say the guns were fully auto. As if you just can't go get a tax stamp for that. Everybody obsesses over full auto. I don't want full auto. If they ever come grab one of my guns and make it full auto, try to put me in jail. I mean, what a joke. The point is that the news doesn't even know what they're talking about. This Jason Fields is probably 3 years old. It says Indiana militiaman gets back his 41 guns, and they keep calling them machine guns, but fully auto, and then it goes and admits 2 of them have been charged with machine guns. He wouldn't be getting them back if they were machine guns he had illegally. And they call them implements of destruction. But when the drones are above us, that's a good thing, though, right? Unadmitted militiamen. Oh, so evil. Basically, that's just the term for civil defense. Got 41 guns and more than 100,000 rounds of ammunition back from the government Friday. See, it shouldn't be about why was an innocent guy set up. The guns were confiscated when Thomas Pedic and 6 other members of the Atari militia were arrested in 2009 on charges they planned to kill police officers and overthrow the government. He was acquitted in March when a federal judge, Victoria Roberts, found there was insufficient evidence in the case. Hayek and others then petitioned to get their weapons back. The implements of destruction, which included an AK-47, just a semi-auto, handguns, shotguns, crossbows, and swords, required 2 trips to take home, according to TV station WLS. When Pytek arrived to pick up his property from the Hammond, Indiana police station, he was already packing heat. Oh, it's so horrible he had a gun. We should all start carrying guns just to let all these government servants know who the boss is. See, they want to run TV ads and have billboards up that say, report illegal guns with an image of a revolver, and then the carpet cleaner's in your house and sees a gun case and calls the cops on you. That happened to me. I mean, that's how mentally ill and dumb the public is. I mean, just thumb-sucking mindless idiots. I just get so disgusted with these people I can't even pronounce the words right. And it just goes on. Just a piece, you know, whatever. He said, according to WLS, you've got a phone, keys, whatever. It ain't a thing with me. And it goes on. He also got back military helmets, bulletproof vests, $100 in cash, and a cell phone. And it goes on to basically demonize him. So, government arming to the teeth with giant tanks, weapons, all these systems, surveilling us illegally, that's good. That's safety, even though historically that's the main danger. But you get citizens trying to counterbalance that, that's bad. Hey, I agree with the government. It's bad for us to own guns. I think it's good foreign banks brag they've taken over America and are preparing to bankrupt us to consolidate and take it over. I think that's a good thing. We should all worship government. It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. It is Tuesday, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Tuesday, the 10th day of July, 2012. Coming up in the second hour, we are going to be joined by Rosalind Peters, who's done a lot of deep research into weather modification. And I thought to get her on late last week when I saw the report out of the Hill newspaper, Napolitano, on weird weather and climate change. There's a pattern here, and their answer is pay Al Gore and the global government a bunch of money, and they will basically take care of everything for us then. But meanwhile, there is massive sustained weather modification going on all over the world on record. Most of it's classified, but the fact that it is going on is declassified. Just the details are classified, so she's going to be joining us coming up in the second hour, and we'll also open the phones up then. We're going to open the phones up during this hour as well. I had been planning to go to Colorado to report on the road and check out the United States before the federal checkpoints completely shut it down, and enemies of the global government like myself won't be able to travel anymore under the no-travel system they're openly announcing. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's where all this is. That's where all this is going. But then the little RV we have, little is the joke, turbo on the, that sounds fancy, but all those big buses have turbos on their diesel, blew up. It's an old bus. And so I didn't go, but that's why Mike Adams was sitting in yesterday, because I was going to be on the road that day. Give me a chance to get all the way to Colorado. But I want to thank him for sitting in and doing a fabulous job. We are, again, going to be here for the next 3 hours today. And more I realize that I'm just in information overload, as I know you are as well. I mean, I just read all this news and information and track it and follow it and then want to talk about each little piece of it and then only get to a fraction of it. And that's what's allowing tyranny to continue to spread its black wings over human society, is because so much is happening and things are moving so quick, and this foundation of corruption has been built to such a point that this tyranny is just being poured out like a vial of acid onto us. We've just got to be here pointing out to people why this is happening. And really, it hit me this morning again. I've made this point a lot, but it really hit me that much stronger, that this is premeditated. This is an organized, scientific takeover. And that's why the system doesn't care if we all wake up. That's why they don't care what we do. They're going ahead with it. And I just want people serving the system who are compartmentalized cogs to understand the future being developed, the future being established, is a future without about 99% of us. Now, that's only in a few globalist documents that they plan to kill 99%. So Nicki Minaj has now come out and said she was groped at the airport. Everyone gets to be groped. It's the new sacrament, and now you get to be made fun of. Hey, that's my dad's or grandpa's ashes. Please don't. No, we got to open it. No. Dump them out on the floor, laugh at you, rob your bags, rape you in the parking lot. This is what TSA is. This is the federal, illegal, not bonded, not sworn, out of their jurisdiction, violating the 4th Amendment. So, flying out of Louisville, Kentucky airport, there was a group of hearing impaired or deaf folks who'd been to a conference. This article's up at Infowars.com. TSA agents laugh at deaf man, call him effing deafy, steal his candy. And so first they make fun of him, then they pull out some candy in his bag, so you can't have this. We're a military base facility, USO. And they say it's for the troops, and then laugh, because it's okay if you say it's for the troops, and then eat the candy in front of him. And Boing Boing's picked this up. There's also some other blogs that have the news, and it's par for the course. The New York Times has confirmed, one of their reporters has written, so since they're the New York Times, if they say it, it must be true, that what we reported on last week is confirmed. They are now yelling freeze at people. They just yell freeze to the entire line, and then if you move, everyone henpecks you and says you're supposed to freeze when they say, because the whole thing is basically an arrest scenario. That's what it is. The whole thing is, again, acclimating, and we also have a video, and Kirk's doing a blurb on it right now, up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, of the TSA marching around with checkpoints in Chicago. But again, they're not actually going to stop the gangbangers with all the guns killing people. Guns are banned, so the criminals all move there because they don't follow the law to feed on citizens that do. And no. They're just searching people randomly, business travelers, again, to acclimate you that you have no rights. Here it is. TSA agents laugh at deaf man, call him bleeping deafy, steal his candy. You're dumb deafies anyway, so no one will believe you. And we've talked to TSA whistleblowers here. It's been confirmed as well. They do hire criminals. That's mainstream news. And when they hire them, it's all a big joke now. It's like, ooh, she's good looking. Watch this. If you're into women. Or if the guy's into men, it's watch this. And if it's a movie star, women come over, the TSA agents, they ask for autographs, they ask for naked body scan images to be signed. That's come out, and it's just, it's a celebration of abuse. And that's what tyranny is. It's all the people that are into that get hired by the criminal oligarchs. It happened in Russia, in China, in Nazi Germany, in Fidel's Cuba. I got somebody working for me that lived in Venezuela under Chavez. That's exactly what it's like. They show up at your business and say, you can still work here and get a small paycheck if you want, but the state owns it now, and we're putting these bureaucrats' families in here to run this. And by the way, we'll arrest you if you don't keep this running for us and just basically give us the money. It's just like when the mafia would show up at your grocery store or your cleaners or wherever, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago in New York or someplace, or New Jersey, places where folks would put up with it culturally. And they'd come to them and say, you're going to pay me 20% of everything you make, and to make sure you do, you're going to hire my buddy here. He's not going to do any work, but he's going to sit behind the counter, and then he's going to watch everything you're doing. You're going to pay him too. And then a few months later, if you put up with that, most of the documents are 80% or 90%, and that's the debate they have. But I just want to tell all the professors and camp followers and fellow travelers that go along with all this that you're going to be killed as well. Now, people like Dr. Pianka at UT, who calls for an airborne Ebola to be released to kill 90% of us, he says he understands that he and his family are going to die, and he's sad about it, but it needs to happen. And he turns out people out of the biology department who send me threatening emails, and I go look them up and find out they're over bioweapons development, saying, of course, humans are a parasite, and we'd be better off without any humans, and the doctor only wants to kill 90%. We should probably kill everyone. And then you go look the person up, they're in a white lab coat bragging about how they work in bioweapons development. These are the type of big issues we're talking about. We're going to come back, get into all of it. It's very important. TSA is now savagely attacking deaf people. It is Tuesday, my friends, the 10th day of July, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones. And we are going to be here for the next 3 hours today. We're going to take a deep look at ongoing declassified weather modification going on globally and being used as weather weapons against populations across the world with Rosalind Peterson of California Skywatch. Always informative, and it ties into the drones, ties into massive whale and other marine mammal beachings all over the world. With the new super high-power sonar systems as well. Very important information coming up. Where do you start? I've probably got 200 articles here in front of me, each one more insane than the last. I just want to get this out here right now to everybody listening, because we have a lot of new listeners every day that tune in, but also longtime listeners, because this hit me right between the eyes psychologically of this morning. It just really hit me that we've been very accurate about our analysis of the world government and their end game, and that it is totally premeditated, everything you see unfolding right now at a global level by the banking crime syndicates, and that they are waging war against society and want to implode the world economy. And that is literally in thousands of their statements and documents. But when you consciously understand that, and you consciously realize that all of the big pharma were set up by eugenicists in the last 150 years, the people that created Hitler, just to give you an idea of who they are, and that they designed the new drugs to hurt you and kill you as part of a system to profit while they get rid of you, and that they block good, inexpensive drugs from being legalized, and that it is premeditated, complete evil. I was just thinking about this. In the last 4 days, it's come out that the drug company GlaxoSmithKline knowingly put out an asthma drug that did not help you and, in fact, made asthma worse and is linked to killing a bunch of people. And they've made $7.8 billion in 1 year off of it, $13.4 billion globally, and they're estimated to make even more than that in the future. $13.4 billion in just international sales by 2020. but they had blockbuster sales of $7.8 billion in 2010, and that they knew it was a death sentence. Now, in the 60s, they said stop giving oral polio vaccine to people, and that it was the law, it had to be destroyed. It's still given in the United States. See, that's what's incredible. It is in the Indian and African and European and even U.S. Medical publications that last year alone, 47,500 plus children were paralyzed, and many of them died. We're talking about kids dying over a few weeks as a virus eats their nerves and then not being able to breathe and dying. Doesn't feel too hot. Under the UN Bill and Melinda Gates polio vaccine program. No one's going to save them. No one's going to help them. And I get to go sit in a restaurant here, stay with my kids, and watch cops strut around in there as they eat, bugging their eyes out at me. Fine. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. The country and the world is run by psychopath killers. Creepy, vicious, murderous nerds like Bill Gates and his wife that I have to sit there and look at, knowing full well what they're doing. And then I get to see all the little bureaucratic state henpecking and micromanaging and throwing the book at the public and all of this while I know, I don't think, I know in quadruplicate, triplicate on top of itself that they're murdering us and no one is standing against them, and it's just getting more and more insane because the average person listening to this who's a new listener, A, cannot believe it's really this bad, and B, even if they check it out and find out it's true, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I guess you just die. I mean, we just watch society slowly die, and it becomes normal to have, you know, half your family with cancer and, you know, brain damaged, and everybody just starts dying, and that's the way it is. And everybody goes out and has a little, you know, 10K jog, you know, for all the neurological disorders, or the breast cancer up 2,000+%, or the pediatric cancers. Yeah, because I've got all this news in front of me, but does any of it even matter? But they had a famous musician yesterday. In fact, I had it in the stack, but you guys print it for me again because I can't find it. Get groped. And there was a big deaf conference in Kentucky, and they were flying back out wearing their shirts from the deaf conference, you know, unable to hear. And the TSA started making fun of them, calling them names and stealing stuff out of their bags in front of them, and then eating their candy out of one guy's bag and laughing at him. And people are like, well, that's an anomaly. No, it's not. That's what's meant to happen. That's what tyranny looks like. That's what we're going to go into. That's who the home inspectors are in Australia now. Exact type goons doing the same stuff. This is what it's like to be a slave. And everybody wants to be a slave. Well, you're going to get to be one on your way to being soft-killed. So they implemented a market program back in 2010 to push a direct-to-consumer, kind of like in the 80s. In 81, they mailed out Prozac in samples in the mail, a psychotropic, hallucinogen-based chemical weapon that brain damages you, and they mailed out samples in the mail. Oh, but the police are going to have a checkpoint later today in your town to just make sure you don't have any drugs. And you're supposed to, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I watched these cops yesterday when the waiter came over and thanked him and said, oh, sir. And they just ignored him like they did. This is a citizen. It's a piece of trash. Cops didn't even act like they existed as they're sitting there eating, you know, like an hour-long lunch. And then I watched as they got up and ambled around. I watched as a family was walking up, and they all fearfully waited for the police to go out the door first. And the dad and the people with their kids were shaking in fear. I mean, get me out of this country. Just get me out of here. It's the whole world, though. I could go to third world countries. I could go to Mexico or North Korea and, you know, watch people when cops come stand up, you know, scared up against the wall. I don't even hate those police, by the way. I just know we're circling the drain. Just everywhere I go, I see the signs of it. And it tears my guts out I mean, this is coming out every day or two now. And by the way, GlaxoSmithKline admits that they knew their asthma drug, Advair, actually caused asthma and killed people, including adrenal insufficiency, worsening of asthma, and death. Well, I mean, they knew that the Gardasil shot was killing people, didn't protect you from cervical cancer. Said it on the insert. They knew that the H1N1 was killing people. They knew that they were giving the smallpox and anthrax shots to the troops. It killed thousands. They know. It's not for a greater good, though, like, well, statistically, this makes it better. They spread it. That's why polio is now spreading in Africa, Central Asia, Pakistan, subcontinent India. Because I mean, it's admitted. They don't even deny they're causing it. And then now when they have outbreaks and it paralyzes people, they go, well, we don't call it polio, but it is polio. And it's a weaponized polio. I mean, I was thinking about knowingly. Bill Gates went over there to inject, but also give them oral. You can pull up Bill Gates gives children polio vaccine, and he gets this psycho look on his face while he's giving them the shot or putting it in their mouth. And I just thought, my God, how do you do that? Well, I mean, and he's, you know, dad's head of Planned Parenthood, globalist, eugenicist. He's on record. That's what his family comes out of. But because he dresses like a nerd and wears, you know, an Izod pullover sweater and acts real friendly, people like, oh, no, scary people look like a monster out of a movie. They don't look like Bill Gates. And he knows that. And they just go on and on, him and his witch wife. I got an article up at Infowars.com right now. Depopulating the third world, UN sterilization camps in developing countries accelerating. And they just admit that the UN goes and pays the local government to arrest people and take them to these camps and sterilize them. And then if you tell a yuppie about it, they'll giggle and say, well, there are too many people. Don't you get it, moron? It's being done to you through the food and water. Don't you get it, you idiot? They plan to get everybody. This is so diabolical. Oh, but by the way, it's not just GlaxoSmithKline. Don't forget Merck vaccine fraud exposed by Merck virologists, documents released in court where Merck knew that their vaccines were actually causing what they were supposedly treating, and that was a way to make more money. As it spread, that advertises it. They advertise it as 95% effective in the treatment of measles, but actually caused the outbreaks, and we've got all the documents. It just goes on. It's like Google says, don't be evil. Folks, they were set up by the foreign banks through their spy system, the NSA. We're conquered. 12 years ago, 13 years ago, 1999. Now they just admit they're spying on everything, and these companies make 10, 15, 20 billion. They pay $1 billion fine on the vaccine killing people, or a $1.3 billion fine on the asthma drug killing people knowingly. Bayer Pharmaceutical, 11 years shipping out factor VIII blood thickening systems with HIV and hepatitis in it. I mean, you talk about Jeffrey Dahmer is an angel compared to this. Literally. Literally. An angel compared to these people. And Bill Gates is now taking over the milk. We're going to tell you about this. I mean, it's end of day stuff. It is Satan incarnate.